Good evening, Canby. This is I'd like to call to order the Canby City Budget Committee for May 21st, 2026. Let's start with the roll call with Mr. Mayor.
Mayor Hodson is here.
And Kim,
Everyone turn on your mics.
yes, sorry about that. Kim Wiggand, Budget Committee Chairperson here.
And Tracy Hensley, Council President.
David Tate, Budget Committee.
Paul Waterman, City Council.
Jim Davis, City Council.
Melody Thompson, Budget Committee.
Randy Ely, Interim City Administrator.
Denise LaRue, Finance Director.
Katie Joyner, Financial Analyst.
Scott Cantonwine, Budget Committee Vice Chair.
Jack Pendleton, Budget Committee.
On screen. On screen.
Councilor Padden.
You're muted, sir.
Councilor Jason Patton, attending online.
Guests. And
Yeah.
Maya Benham, Administrative Director and City Recorder. Jamie Stigall, Director of Economic Development and Communications Specialist.
Spencer Pollock, Canby Public Works.
Pete Wood, HR Director.
Todd Wood, Transit Director.
Marissa Ely, Library Director.
Don Hardy, Planning Director.
Patrick Mahoney, Wastewater Supervisor. Nathan Templeton, Swim Center Manager.
George Strauss, soon to be retired, Police Chief.
And those in the back?
Heidi Muller, Transit Operations Manager.
Ryan Potter, Planning Manager. Tyler Magzer, Economic Development Coordinator.
And members of
guests.
guests?
Jennifer Thomas.
Patty Mulligan.
Christy Smith.
Thank you. All right. The next thing on our agenda is public comment. And is there anybody on Zoom, Maya, or no one? Anybody in the audience wish to say anything? All right. Well, let's turn it over to Randy Ely, the interim city administrator. And we'll start where we finished last time.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a couple logistics before we get going here. Welcome to day 2. We're working through the budget book here, our annual budget, and I want to thank you all for your time and service, and I want to thank the staff for really leaning into this one. Kind of feels like we build it from the ground up based on council priorities, and really happy with the progress so far. Just a time check, 6 to 9 typically is our window. So I'll look for verbal cues from the chair on bio breaks or if we need to take a break otherwise. Tonight we're going to review the remaining 2 funds inside the general fund that we didn't get to last time. First is cemetery, then economic development. And then we're going to dive into the special revenue funds, the internal service funds, and lastly, the combined sewer enterprise fund. Again, we'll do the same plan as we did night 1, where we will mention top line highlights for each department. Feel free to ask questions at any time. Directors are going to bring their name cards down when they come and talk, like Spencer has. And they're going to help amplify any questions, just so everybody who's viewing along on might want to know who you are. Everybody knows Spencer from Canby. So Maya, if you want to start the slide deck, we'll, if there's no questions before we kick it off, we can just dive in. First, a little high-level reset. Reminder that you're working on a $90.3 million budget as we come in with approximately 42% parked in reserves throughout the budget. That's about approximately $38 million in capital outlay and reserves. And your general fund, which we're still working on tonight, has an operating budget of $14 million. And I sent you an email tonight that said we're roughly going to project ending on June 30th with 32% in operating reserves. I know that's a big deal for the council with the financial policy. That is roughly 12% above 20, right? If you do the math. So we can have that discussion later tonight on with our bubble list. Okay, page 76. Page 2. Joyce and I spent the weekend taking some photos in Canby, so let's go to page 2. Oh, that's me, I guess. Sorry. See how this works? Yeah. Technology. There. Now it's reading. I don't know where I'm supposed to point. Oh, well. Can you do it, Maya, from there? Anywho, we'll try and tackle the cemetery. There it is. Beautiful pictures of our Zion. We try to tackle the cemetery fund and maybe the cemetery perpetual care fund at the same time, if you don't mind. Memorial Day is coming up. And so it's not lost on me that starting with the cemetery is a pretty big deal, pretty special place. I'd like to thank Michael on our staff for all the work he does and Spencer overseeing that. I'm told there's 6,996 resting souls at Zion. Think of that number. That's close to 7,000. We have a good amount of open spaces and plots, good for 15 years, averaging approximately 60 burials per year. And as you'll find out, I have a handout. We're projecting to increase on page 2 here of this handout a little bit with the fees that we charge. We haven't touched the fees since 2019. And you'll see that part of the fee structure on page 2 goes to the perpetual care fund, rather large amount, actually, 60%. And there's close to 1.5 million in your perpetual care fund. And so per page 1 of this handout, our code, chapter 12, 28090, we're suggesting in this budget to maybe have a little bit of interest in that fund to help cover operations and maintenance, something like $36,000. This time, that's on page, I believe we're on page cemetery 78? 78, thank you. So that said, Spencer, any high level, there's some M&S in there for some materials, 1.7 in personnel, rather small budget, but big responsibility up at Zion. Can you go to page 2? This is just a plot map that shows you in the red, there is available space. I'll let Spencer speak to that. And so we haven't even tapped into that area yet, as I understand it. And there's still 15 years of space in all the other areas. But go ahead and put a finer point on it, Spencer.
Yeah, so if everyone's familiar with it, the bigger field that is along the 4th Avenue side of the cemetery is all pre-plotted on a computer. It hasn't been plotted out in the field, but we have plenty of space to expand out into when the time comes. I don't think that we're at the point where we're needing to worry about expanding that area in the next few years. The only thing that I would say is the mausoleum itself is starting to get close to being full. So if there is ever any interest on doing another mausoleum or a niche wall, that would be something to look forward to in the future. We're fine for now, but it is something that is going to be coming up on the horizon.
Madam Chair? What's the advantage? Is it, what's the, these are kind of hard to push. I know you were having a little bit of a deal there.
Sorry.
What's the advantage in investing in a mausoleum? I guess the idea of marketing a cemetery is kind of new to me, but I can see, and we were talking about this even when I was involved way back when, that without doing that the perpetual care fund is in jeopardy, and that could run out at some point in time. So maybe you can just do you have any kind of like insights or ideas about how that might increase the value of people actually using the cemetery?
Yeah.
I'm just kind of curious.
I think recent trends do go towards more of cremation niches and mausoleum.
Okay.
It actually is a little bit of a space saver, being able to go a little bit more vertical and the niches don't take up as much space. Maintenance-wise, it's a lot easier to maintain a mausoleum or a niche wall than it is to maintain all the acreage of the grounds.
So do you think that you would market more if sales would increase if that was a capital investment on the part of the cemetery?
I think it could be. Right now, the current spaces that we have in the mausoleum are mostly up towards the top, so they aren't going quite as fast as what they were when it was more eye level. So I think that opening up a niche wall or doing another mausoleum would give more variety.
Any other questions? Yes, Councilor Davis.
Is there a space for another mausoleum?
When they built the mausoleum that is there was plans kind of set aside. We would have to completely redo those, or not redo them, but just kind of update those. But there was kind of a plan for extending the current footprint over towards the east.
Again, have we built any reserve in to perhaps build that in the future?
I don't think that to date there has been any reserves built for it.
Reserve built for building another mausoleum? Okay, I'll make a note on that.
Any idea how much something like that costs?
I have not priced that out for so long. I don't know. And like I said, this isn't we need to look at doing this in 2 to 3 years. This is a ways out, but it's good to start the conversation now, to start looking forward to coming up with a for sure plan and start building that reserve fund.
Exactly, and that's why I recommend trying to build a reserve in, so when it's time, the money will be there.
Agreed.
Any other questions?
I think you have a hand up, Madam Chair.
And I can't see.
It's hard to see.
Oh, Jason.
Whoa,
sorry.
I have my hand raised.
All right, you're in the corner with the glare.
We see you.
Great.
Sorry.
Oh, no, it's fine. I echo where Jim is going, or where Councilor Davis is going with this. I think what we need to do is do a deeper dive in how much space is left in that mausoleum and be really conservative on when it will fill up, more towards the sooner than the later year, and then get some cost estimates of what it would be to build one that was similar to it, and start to build and make a projection to start to build a reserve in there. Because if memory serves me correctly, that one was really expensive, and it took the city many years to get that paid off. Because I remember years ago on budget committee meetings and that council talking about the debt that was involved with that mausoleum and building it. So I really think we should kind of get a better handle on that, because more people are being cremated these days than buried. And I have a feeling that it could fill up faster than we realized. So that is that part of it. And I just want to make sure I understand what's going on here. We are proposing putting less money in the perpetual care fund so we can put more money of what is raised towards the operation of the cemetery and such, correct?
Thank you, Councilor. Is it okay to speak? Thank you, Councilor Patton. We are suggesting if you turn, if I can indulge the Budget Committee, to turn to page 109. It's a one-page budget, the Cemetery Perpetual Care Fund. Per Chapter 12, the Perpetual Care Fund allows for operation or for maintenance as prescribed in the highlighted section that I just handed out, you should have an email, Counselor Patton, I hope, got to you this today, for allowing for some O&M at the cemetery. So we are simply suggesting, you can see there's about a $2 million budget with the Perpetual Care Fund, and I know a lot of people heavily invest in this fund and care for it very deeply, so we're handling it very carefully, this discussion, but we're suggesting to transfer out $38,350 to help cover the materials and services per city code of that fund, okay? Because that is the total roll-up in M&S for Michael to work in the, and Spencer's crews to work in the cemetery. Now, my question to Spencer or some of the experts would be on the mausoleum. Is that an allowable expense for a new mausoleum from the Cemetery Perpetual Fund? And it would seem to me that it is, but I haven't posed that question with staff. Is that why that's here?
I don't know for sure. I didn't read that language in its entirety.
The question for another day.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think, I guess, with what we're working with this year, I'm a little apprehensive of taking money from the Perpetual Care Fund to fund some of this activity. I understand that we're trying to squeeze the turnip as hard as possible to get as much out as we can.
Mm-hmm.
So I can see maybe looking at it, doing it this year.
Mm-hmm.
But I would be very apprehensive of doing it in the future, because regardless of what happens, eventually the city will use all of this money in the Perpetual Care Fund. Eventually this cemetery will be full.
Yeah.
And the people that paid fees decades ago when they died and got buried here did not pay enough to maintain their plots in 2048 or however far you want to look out. And I always keep this in mind where my parents have cemetery plots. Years ago when they built that cemetery, they did this thing where if you bought a plot and you paid a little extra for an urn, they would plant geraniums in your urn on your headstone. And now they have a hard time getting the money to pay for all the geraniums, and they can't not do it because it's built into the requirement. So ultimately, no matter how much money we put in here, it's going to run out. And where I'm okay with maybe doing it this year, we really need to look at not doing it next year.
That's fair. Yeah.
Yes, Ms. Thompson.
So that's my point exactly, is because I remember hearing the same conversation, and maybe Jason even remembers it in years gone by, and Brian, about, okay, at some point, it's going to get to that point. And you would think that there might be some way to take the geography there and extrapolate off of that, you know, what those grave sales might be, and project perhaps, adding in percentages of increase for operational maintenance costs, kind of project out a little bit about how long that perpetual fund, can last. And that might help balance the conversation about why a mausoleum might be a good investment. Mm-hmm. Because it's less perpetual care, right? Mm-hmm. Is more in demand, so that it could help promote sales. And it might reinforce maybe the argument for why that money could be moved and spent as an investment. Just a thought.
I see Director Wood might have a comment to add.
I just wanted to throw just a little bit of context in this conversation. I think, and Spencer can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the cemetery's current capacity, we're looking at 60 to 90 years. So we're not talking about anything in the next 15 to 20 years. We're talking almost a century away. Not that
And everybody has an understanding, and still, yes. So we'll look into. I like that's a great suggestion. 60% of these grave sales goes to this perpetuity fund, right? Everybody knows that. 60%, and there's some other fee structures in there as well. So, thank you for that. We have the.
Mr. Mayor has a question.
Sorry.
Go ahead. Yeah.
So each year, what do we factor an increase each year on the plots?
So this came up last year, which is why I was ready for this question from you. The last time it was updated was in 19, and it hadn't been updated until this year. We have a new fee proposals that will go into effect with the master fee schedule, and then we are proposing tying it to the Western Region Consumer Price Index each year after that. So we won't be trying to update every 5 years. It'll just kind of naturally keep going.
So get it now before it goes up.
Get it now. There's going to be a hot sale between now and July.
It's just pre-planning, Melody. Like, I mean, you know, oh, no. I think Jim before you, Melody. I missed
Goodness.
All right.
Any other questions?
Thank you. If not, we might move to page 79 and talk a little economic development. Jamie's going to come down, our Economic Development Director and Communications. So just wanted to kind of do high level. If we go to the next slide. Oh, try my deal here. I must not have a there. Sensitive little guy. Okay. Economic development, something very near and dear to my heart, particularly. Really love this part of the job. And focusing really, if you think of economic development, big picture, on the three legs, retention, expansion, and recruitment. Very equally important. So retain your current businesses, spend a lot of time with them, help them expand when they need to expand as a community, and spend time obviously on recruitment to Canby. Three different clusters we look at. Obviously, this is nothing new to all of you, but the downtown Main Street feels like its own segment. We talk a lot, we work closely with the Chamber and Shatrine over there, and she reports how diverse her membership is and how they support workforce. A lot of legacy small businesses in Canby that are very important. I'd like to maybe pick up our partnership with the Chamber. We have business license receipts, and I know this in couple of my previous jobs, we actually gave them a little bit of revenue from those business licenses, and they provided us back with data, important data like employment numbers or any kind of surveying that they could do and take that effort and burden off of us as staff. As you know, we're looking and focusing this coming year on talking about hotels, and the events are coming to Canby. We have legacy events in Canby. The Fairgrounds has this event center they're about to put online, which is what they're marketing as an actual convention center. So that really caught my attention when I heard Brian Crow reported in as big opportunity here. Talked with a lot of other folks, partnering and Jamie as well to try and see what we can do on that front. The industrial area of Canby increasingly recognized as a regional industrial manufacturing hub. We'll get to some pictures here later. The commercial mixed use, the picture we're going to show in the Dahlia, was very strong anchored downtown. And we obviously, these are some numbers that Don shared with me today about trying to maintain a healthy jobs housing balance. Roughly 8,000 people commute into Portland every day from Canby. You got, some of you are, so you're nodding your heads, you know these stats already. Don had them on the tip of his tongue. 5,000 people are commuting into Canby every day, and 1,000 are living and working in Canby. So a little bit of an imbalance there. It'd be greater if we could have more living and working in Canby. So we're focused on some of that going forward. Just some highlights here. As you know, we're working pretty hard on an urban growth boundary expansion. So I know this is top of mind for the council. So you can see up on that map that we're exploring 1,500 acres for expansion, and that's in the blue. 200 different, over 200 different tax lots. This is just a bigger picture of the study area. And you can see where on the top there, I guess it might be north, the housing, and then over on the east side, the employment lands that are being studied and about to come in to be considered through an urban growth boundary and comp plan amendment update. 73 acres for residential, 14 for parks. And then this is the kicker, 439 for industrial commercial acres. There isn't any kind of land like that available in Portland Metro, so go Canby on that front. And again, that jobs housing, it looks like properties up at Pioneer Industrial Park are going for around $16 to $20 a square foot, and we'll get to that in a little bit. So just to give you some idea about housing that Don and his staff are working on in the next 20 years, we need 2,300 housing units over 20 years, and that is diversified into single family small, townhomes and apartments. So we're trying to, as we see these houses come on the market for $850,000, it's shocking. We need to work in one of these mixes to try and, as the council's trying to do, and keep those costs so it's not such a barrier to entry for first-time home buyers. So that's just a graphic of the population in Canby and where it's expected to go by 2042. And those are the additional housing units. And here's some pictures of the low density in Canby, a typical home in low density for Canby. Those are the more expensive side. And this is the medium density shots where you might be able to get some entry level if we really focus our efforts there. First time home buyers, those are nice homes going in. Even high density residential. And then we haven't had any of these yet, but Don's bringing forward to this idea of cluster small lots in neighborhoods. So you have a green area or common area in the middle, and then the affordable entry-level housing around it. Okay, pivot now quickly. I'm almost done to industrial lands. And so this is the jobs analysis, and 2022, 7,600 Don reports, and by 2043, almost 15,000. So that's an additional 7,000 jobs that Jamie's going to bring to Canby by 2043. And I spent some time on the phone with the brokers. Took these pictures, Joyce and I did over the weekend up at as we drove around Canby, and called each of these people yesterday and the day before and just asked, what's the experience like? Why is this on the market? And most of them had amazing things to say about Canby, of course, great place, regionally attractive, and its cost comparison to other markets is favorable to Canby. There's just some geopolitical things going on right now, which is making the market a little soft up there. Price of fuel and diesel, but you can't beat us. Here's the double-edged sword. And I looked at Jack, you can't beat us on electric prices. The prices at the utility here, I wouldn't overshare this, but they're less than almost half of PGE. Okay, and those are verified numbers. We've got an electric bill comparison here that Carrie, the general manager, shared with me. So extremely competitive on those electricity rates. It's literally 8 cents a kilowatt hour for Canby utility versus 21 cents a kilowatt hour for PGE. So think of that. So that's something to market. We just have to make sure that we convene people about the availability of power, working with Bonneville, PGE, and Canby Utility, make sure that that's the next, that's a showstopper according to some of these people we talked to, that it was that big of a conversation a year or two ago. So in terms of economic development, we've got to get through that with Canby Utility and the city. Closing out here, Jamie helped put this together. She knows the different segments in Canby in the industrial business park. So we've got metals manufacturing up there. You're very diversified here. Food, beverage, the floral warehousing, construction equipment, medical production is really cool, aerospace, pumping system technology, all these great segments that Canby has to offer is, I think, pretty neat, and it shows the diversity, which we've rolled up in a few slides here. We took these pictures, and Jamie knew exactly which cluster they belonged in. So Really cool stuff going out there. And you can even, if you want to sell your house, you can buy an active water ski boat that was quite impressive. I don't think I can afford to shop in there for sure, but it was really neat to see that in there. And then lastly, the Anchor commercial mixed-use building downtown, the Dahlia. So that said, in the budget, we have 2 FTE, Jamie and Tyler. And there was a plan years past to phase their expenses from urban renewal to general fund, like a 3-year tranche, as I understand it, 75%, then 50, then 25. We went this year with a 50-50 split because they do so much work in the streets and with our events and tourism. So that's just, and they were part of a global reallocation of staffing that Denise took under. So wherever one of these directors are working, we're putting them in the right funds to more accurately account for that. Jamie, I'll just say, I know you guys are doing a lot in terms of, she's overseeing the street maintenance fee recalibration project, which is coming to council very soon. And she is shutting down the urban renewal with the last couple of projects, First Street in particular. And they do just a ton of communications, over 50 plus newsletter announcements, a lot of website information for the community, and then all the events, 4th of July, Big Night Out, Halloween, Light Up the Night. So that said, Jamie, anything that you'd like to amplify on all the great work you and Tyler are doing in that department?
I think that you covered a lot of what we're working on and what is kind of on our radar. As far as that long-range planning, you know, one of the things that Randy and I have been talking about is how we then begin to really plan for the development in the future and convening meetings where we're not just talking about when this happens, but what happens next as far as next year or the following year. Working on retention with our industrial park. I know that was one of the pieces that Randy hit on, but really making sure that if needs happen or if something comes up that we're responsive, doing a survey with those industrial park businesses who are always very responsive to any outreach that we do. And then, you know, at the local business level, one of the things that we've been working on, and that's meaning kind of downtown and Highway 99 businesses, really refining our engagement. So for instance, we just recently retooled our first Thursday night market meeting, which happens on a monthly basis. We've retooled that into a downtown business meeting or a local business meeting, and that happens downtown at the Backstop Bar and Grill. And so that's a way so that we're not just talking about first Thursday night market, but also what's going on, what are you hearing, how are you connecting, so that we can do a better job of serving our businesses, connecting with them, connecting them with each other and other resources that they need.
That's great, Jim. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job. Thank you. Proceed, Madam Chair?
Yes.
Okay. Let's see if Marissa Ely can come on down to talk a little bit about our Canby Library, page 85 through 90. She had a big meeting today with all the directors here at City Hall, so very cool. Just right off the top, and then I'll kick it over to Marissa really quickly here, but she points out in 2011, the library operated with 2,600 annual open hours with staffing of nearly 10 employees in an 11,000 square foot facility. So today we operate the same hours with 8.9 employees and the square footage is double. And so they're doing it and providing excellent service. It's almost like a community center or library with the staff. And it's so important to the Canby community that it's included in a city council goal, which is to develop a plan to fund current and expanded library services. New in this budget, we've added in at the request of staff 33 hours per week to be spread across 3 different part-time staffers. I think that will hopefully help in the pinch. But Marissa has a lot to help explain to me and us about meeting that OLA standard, and I think we're getting closer with these additional staffing hours. So Marissa, it's your library, you're the people's library, but you're the caretaker, so
Yes.
please feel free to color inside the description of what all the amazing 200 different services you're providing, Canby.
Yes, there's a lot going on. So I want to first focus on page 86, which is the performance measures. As you can see, pretty much all of our performance measures have increased. We're seeing a large number of visits each year. Our circulation for both physical and digital materials is increasing, and we are one of the few libraries that is actually seeing both of those happen at the same time. The number of programs we were able to put on is actually decreasing, and that's due to staff capacity and also just costs increasing. But we are still seeing more people within those programs, which is exciting. We're seeing increased numbers of reference questions. If you look between 22 and 23 fiscal year and the current fiscal year, we jumped by almost 6,000 to 7,000 questions in a single year, which just shows our need. And then finally, meeting room reservations have gone up. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is on page 85, which is under the 26-27 goals and challenges. So our challenges come down to two things: staffing and standards. Randy said before, compared to 2011, 2012, we are operating a library building that is twice the size of what we had more than 10 years ago with fewer staff, and we're really feeling it. The other piece of this is the standards. So one of the biggest challenges we have is trying to meet the Oregon Library Association Public Library Division essential minimum threshold standards. These standards are basically best practices for libraries, making sure that we are giving the community what it wants and what it needs. And so right now, as it stands, we are not meeting 12.5% of those essential standards, and that is a big deal because it means we're not providing our community with 12.5% of what they should be getting. So if you turn to your budgets now, the library budget on 89 and 90, most of our budget is rinse and repeat from previous years. We try to be very good with the money we have, and we try to save what we can when we can. But really what I want you to focus on is under personnel, where it says the additional 33 hours. We want the additional 33 hours for those 3 part-time employees for 2 main reasons, and it has to do with what I just said. One is the staffing issue. These 33 hours would be the cheapest, easiest, and quickest impact option that will sustain our current operations right now. And then 2, those 33 additional hours will also help us get to almost complete compliance of those essential standards. The only standard that we would still not be able to meet even with those hours is having a bilingual staff member. And the reason that's not included in the budget is because it is much more expensive than these 33 additional hours. So I know I said last year that we were looking at possibly reducing hours, and I will say that it is very likely without the 33 additional part-time staff hours, we will have to reduce hours by 4 hours a week at least. And that would put us under yet another essential standard. For a library service area our size, which is a little over 25,000 people, we should be open a minimum of 50 hours a week, and right now we are only open 50 hours a week. So if we go down to 46 hours, that's another standard that we will not be meeting. So these hours are really important and will allow us to continue providing the service levels that we are providing right now for our community. And because I know we're talking a lot about amplifying certain things, I just want to say again that the library and libraries in general, not just our library, libraries are being asked to do more and more with less and less. And when it comes down to it, my staff really want to continue providing the service that we provide, but we need more help. And so that is why that 33 hours was included in the budget and why we tried to keep the rest of the budget lines mostly intact from previous years. So that's really all I have to say, unless you all have any questions for me.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. First question, so the 33 hours that you were requesting, they're in the budget as presented already?
Yes.
Okay. So it would be the budget committee then saying, no, we're taking those out or whatever, but they're in here already.
Yes. Yes, sir.
We balance.
Yes.
Okay. My second question is, you say that we're 12, how many standards are there total, other than percentage-wise? And then of that number, how many are we not meeting, and what are some of those as examples?
So basically, I'm talking right now about the essential, those minimum standards. There are enhanced standards and exemplary standards. We do meet some of those, but the majority of them we do not. That's why the focus is on the essential standards. As far as the standards go, there are 319 attributes, so not technical standards, but 319 basically indicators that we're trying to meet. And right now, we're only meeting 25 of the 52 standards. Some of them we're meeting, between 75 and 85% of the way. The other ones, some of them we're not meeting at all. So really when it comes down to it, a lot of the standards have to do with certain levels of service. It's like, for example, I included in the library narrative, if you have a population or that speaks a certain language, like Spanish, for example, if over 10% of your population speaks a language, you should be having a bilingual staff member to be able to speak and help those folks, but we do not have that. Other standards include, and I actually have it in here, it's going to be posted on the library website soon. So the main essential standards we're not meeting has to do with some board training on state and local laws. There are some technology and facilities related standards that we are not meeting. Let's see here. Another one has to do with assessing community needs, which would involve surveying, which is not something that we've been able to do outside of our mini little Google form surveys. Other items include, like I said, the Spanish-speaking staff member, some long-range planning for the library, staff being able to participate in other community groups so we can get more input from the community, and then also maintaining certain resources which we have not been able to afford. So there's a lot of standards when it comes down to it. I'm basically trying to boil everything down into a summary, but there's a lot of standards that we're not meeting. Many of them will be very easy to meet once we have the staffing to do that, but some of them, like the bilingual staff member, will involve more funding.
So the 33 hours fills, the 33 hours for the part-time FTE versus a bilingual team member, you would rather go to the 33 than the bilingual if you had a choice?
Sophie's choice.
That's a hard question to answer because we need both. But when it comes down to it, I was trying to think of the cheaper option to try to get it through the budget process. And also when it comes down to it, getting those 33 hours spread throughout those 3 staff members, they have more than enough work to do to get those hours completely filled. And so, yes, I would like a bilingual staff member, but it is very expensive, and it is very expensive for a reason. And that's because there are not a lot of bilingual staff members out there. They're very hard to come by because everybody wants them because there are not a lot of them. And so obviously I've been asked in the past too, why don't you hire a bilingual library assistant? And the answer is we probably wouldn't be able to do that because we need to have something to offer, not only a librarian who would be coming in to fill those shoes, but we would also need a librarian so they could do the full scope of work that we would be expecting. So the answer to your question is I'm picking the 33 hours because it's the cheaper option, but we need both.
Okay, but if you could choose one.
She did.
No, she danced around it, and I'm holding her feet to the fire because I want to know. Because to me, yes, I understand there's the cheapest argument, right? Cheap cost-wise, not right. But I'm looking at it in terms of what's the greater need and service point for the library to provide, and is it that other position, and can that other position absorb some of what these 33 hours that we're talking about? And I know that it's probably, we're looking north, approximately 125,000 more than that?
A little
Okay,
higher
we'll
with
just-
benefits, yeah.
I don't want to show our negotiating hand on that, but, so yeah, it's expensive.
I mean, right now, we're already struggling with the workloads that we have. So if I'm going to answer your Sophie's question, Sophie's choice question, I would say the 33 hours right now is what will get us to continue providing the service that we're providing and having the open hours. But we need the bilingual staff member. I still want to say that because it's very important.
Thank you, Marissa.
Okay. Yes, we have a couple questions. All right. Counselor Waterman.
So one thing to point out is that 33 hours that they're sort of asking for, technically, we're not paying for that. That's included in the increase of the library district funds. The general fund hasn't changed. It's the same as last year. So, so while they're asking for like approval of that, to me, that's a no-brainer. We're not actually taking any more money out of the general fund for that. However, so if we were going to look into adding anything additional, I kind of look at like we talked about with the library being more than just a library. We have we have a lot of needs in the town, like parks, and we talk about parks and recreation. We don't have a recreations department technically, but we do. The library is technically our community center recreation department. It already exists. It's already in place. It's running. Recreation is more than sports, more than kickball around. It's, I just go through the quick, on the calendar, and, we have plant and felting workshops. We have preserving your berry harvest, Alzheimer's Association meetings. We have Red Cross blood drives, community discussions on books, botanical dyes. I've checked out metal detectors. People can get rock tumblers. That's all recreation. And so this department is providing that. And when I look at all of the funds, the library from a general fund standpoint is the fourth lowest general fund contribution that the city provides for a department that provides such a huge impact and resource to our community. And it's going down. So it was before 325, it was 350, before that was 375. So I think when we talk about putting it on our goals, as far as a council goal, I think we can kind of put our money where our mouth is, and there's $25,000, even $50,000. Doesn't seem like a lot, but to the library would be a huge improvement in helping provide the services to our community. Yeah. So.
Councilor Davis.
Thank you. Great presentation. I'm going to play Councilman Stearns. So, what I'm hearing you say is that bilingual position would be your next up that should be added to the bubble list.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that should be on every bubble list until it happens.
We got it on there.
I think Council President Hensley was.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Randy, you and I had spoken recently about the loan that the Perpetual Care Fund gives to the library, and then therefore they return that payment, including interest. And it was my hope that maybe you could find a different loan that you could loan it from without interest. Did you find any success there?
Unfortunately, I asked around, phoned a friend, and we keep all of our money in the same pool. Okay. So it's all in the same bank account. So it's the same interest rate. And if we kept it somewhere else that didn't have that prescription, then maybe. But sewer money, all the storm money, street money, everything is in LGIP. Is that correct?
Okay.
So,
well, it was worth the ask. Thank you.
Now, I will point out, sorry, go ahead. Scott.
Mayor Hudson.
So follow-up question, to get the 33 hours added into the budget to make the numbers work, what did you have to forego?
So luckily, because we do see an increase in library funds every year, that covers a good chunk of it, the difference that we're actually making. And also, every single year, I get an estimate from the county that says how much money that the library district is going to take in and how much each library is going to get, each library city. And every year, like I said, it's an estimate. We usually end up making more than that as well. So together, those things are kind of covering it. And if you look at the rest of the budget, it's really just rinse and repeat. There's a couple areas where it went down, a couple areas where it went up, but for the most part, it's just extra money that is coming in that we're able to pay for that with.
Okay, and Mrs. Thompson.
You know, I think we've all been going to libraries for years, but perhaps, I know I don't recognize what achieving standards, the way that you're setting them out, what the benefit of that is. And also, what I'd like to hear a little bit from you, as I was growing up, I can remember libraries being shut down for great periods of time due to funding. So on the downside of, as you contribute less to open hours programs, services, what's the impact on the library itself? I think I can figure out what it might be on the community, but does that just, the people just kind of go away? And I just hear what you have to say about those two things.
I mean, really, when it comes down to it, one of the main reasons that we would be decreasing hours if we were to do that is really just to give staff the time to get their work done, which is providing all of the services that they provide. And the Oregon Library Association standards are very important because, like I said, they are best practices. If we are not able to meet those standards, it means we are not giving this community what they are supposed to be getting as far as service level standards goes. It means we're not providing certain services, we're not providing enough hours, we're not providing enough staff, we're not providing, quick check-in times. I mean, the standards are really important, and it's something that everybody, tries to get to 100% meeting those essential standards, but it's getting harder and harder with costs going up and staffing levels going down. And as you know, we lost Sunday hours several years ago, and that's been a huge impact. And there are other libraries in our system who are also looking at shaving down hours, getting rid of Sundays, losing staff, things like that. But I always like to talk about how unique Canby is in that we're seeing almost every one of our statistics go up. A lot of other libraries see physical circulation going down while digital material goes up. We're seeing both go up at the same time. So there's a really big need, and as you know, things are getting really difficult in this country right now, just with everything, inflation, prices going up. So people are starting to rely on us even more, which is why it's really important that we meet those standards.
Well, I will say that I agree with Councillor Waterman that this does do a huge bit to fill that community recreational need, and not just for kids or teens, but for seniors and adults. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a couple more questions. So Vice Chair Scott, and then Councillor Patton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just have two questions, one of which, maybe both of which are somewhat exploratory. With respect to the desire for a bilingual staff member, is it possible, as maybe as an interim or stopgap measure, to fill that with volunteer or intern type coverage?
No. And that's mostly because we can't ask volunteers to do anything that we would ask a staff member to do. We've tried on every single one of the job postings that we've ever had go out, it always says bilingual, preferred, and we usually don't get anybody who applies that's bilingual, and that's because they need the right position to be able to come here. So, I mean, we've had volunteer help in the past, but it's not something you can rely on. They have other things to do, work outside of there and whatnot, but it's something that we've thought about. Yeah.
So I guess kind of digging into that a little bit further, in the entire librarian job pool, how available are bilingual candidates?
Not very available. We had a bilingual librarian here who left in 2019, and she left for a job for more money.
And is that a function of not as many people going into the library trade, for lack of a better term?
I think there's a lot of people going into the library field. I think there's not a lot of bilingual people going into the library field. they play a really important role, and like I said, they're very hard to come by, which is why we need to be able to offer them something to want to come here.
Is there a, I'm sorry, I'm digging into this a lot further than I anticipated. Is there a MLS program in Oregon as far as Master Library Science?
Yeah.
At college in Oregon?
Is there a college or university in Oregon that offers one of those?
Okay. No, there isn't.
Okay.
I was trying to think, because anytime you look at a master's program, it always has to be ALA accredited if you actually want to get a job as a librarian. And so most of the people who are going to school now are actually doing degrees online of states outside of here, because like she said, there isn't a master's program. Yeah.
My final question, this is a different topic now. I noticed in the library fund revenue breakdown, grants comprise a minuscule amount of the total revenue. Are there more grants available, whether it be federal, state, that we're not currently receiving?
So two things there. A lot of grants are drying up for many different reasons, especially federal grants. And then a lot of the grants that are out there, everybody's applying for them because there's not very many. And then two, I still get to work the service desk, the reference desk. It's something I do enjoy, but all of those kinds of duties, even some circulation duties, we're all filling in there, which that takes time away from me applying for grants. And this year alone, we were not able to apply for any grants because we were busy managing 2 grants. And also, like I said, they were just drying up. So it's something that I'm always looking for, and I will continue next year. But it's getting really difficult because we've been short-staffed, and even I've had to fill in doing duties that most directors do not have to do. It's very rare.
Last follow-up, I swear. If additional FTE were given to the library for the sole purpose of pursuing those grants, do you think that the benefit of grants received would outweigh the cost of the additional FTE?
Based on the number of grants I'm seeing right now, probably not. A lot of the grants out there are either drying up, or at least the amounts are going down too. I mean, the amount of work we have to do for a $10,000 grant is a lot. It's very difficult to manage those grants, but because we're winding down on the grants that we have right now, I should have more time to be able to apply for them next year. But again, grants don't help with operational costs, and operational costs are the main issue that we're having right now.
All right, thank you for indulging my questions.
Good questions. Councillor Padden.
Yes, thank you. A couple of things. I was looking through here and I see where the loan comes in from the Cemetery Perpetual Care Fund on page 90. But then where it says debt service, interest expense, it is zeroed out. Does that mean we are foregoing the library's payment of interest on the $500,000 loan finally? Or is that because we don't know what the interest rates are going to be?
Yes.
Councilor Padden, great observation, thank you. As we were doing our turn-up exercises, it was expressed before, that was one of the areas. You can see the payment for this fiscal year would be $11,794. Right before the final print run, I made the decision to instruct staff or finance to not charge interest, and we'll deliberate on that with this body at this meeting. Councilor Padden. So, and I have not talked to anyone about that move, but that was part of our gymnastics we were doing to hit that 20% in the general fund.
Okay.
Thank you.
So here's something I will throw out. And this is something that has kind of been stuck in my craw for several years. Back years ago, I masterminded this crazy thing that essentially gave the library a $400,000, it was like $300,000 or $400,000 savings amount that was supposed to cover this loan from other departments. And at some point in time, the library directors before you spent it. And so now you have to take another loan. I guess something that I would like to see is, if we're not charging it interest, is there a way, and I understand you're on a tight budget, is there a way that you could build that back? Maybe it's gonna take many years, but any amount you can save for reducing the amount that you have to borrow, then becomes interest that will be in the library's pocket, right? Because the interest that was being paid back to the fund was because the library was borrowing. But if the library has money in that savings account, then it's gonna make interest off of it. And so I would really like to see some sort of plan to build that up so that at the end of each year, there is actually a reserve in there to get the library through rather than having to borrow it from somewhere else. Okay, so that's the seed that I'm planting, or trying to plant again this year. I'm glad I am a proponent of waiving that, because I think, like Paul said, compared to most of the other departments, really, the library and the pool are very unique in that they use their own money to do most of their operations. Back in the day, the library was completely funded from the general fund. Pretty much. I think we did get some money from the county for it, but a lot more money came from the general fund to run it. And then when the library district was formed is when the finance director at that time said, well, now instead of having all of the administrative and buildings and all that stuff in one area, we're going to start to spread that out over everything. And then you see this $100 and some odd $1,000 of the library money then being pulled out to cover those costs. So essentially, the city then started using the library fund to take money back rather than covering it and spread that money elsewhere. So that's always something that upsets me every year when I see this. So, and I think, Marissa, when you had this conversation with us before, it's not that you need a bilingual person on staff, it's that you're looking for a bilingual librarian. And that is a very different thing than having a person on staff who can speak Spanish. Is that correct?
Yes. There's a lot of things that a bilingual volunteer or even library assistant could not do that we would still need in that position. And we don't want to make people work out of class because then we get in trouble with the union. So we need a bilingual librarian, yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that everybody had that clarified, because that is something very different, because the mayor had mentioned something about, that person could be several, like their salary could be set like couple $100,000 or whatever, and that's why. It's because it's not just a staff person that can speak Spanish, it is an actual like certified librarian that can do that, and that's why that cost is so much higher.
Yes.
I will be a proponent for trying to squeeze some more money into this budget if we can, to help expand the services. So I'm looking forward to seeing where people go from here.
Yes, Councilor Waterman.
I think Councilor Patton brought up a good point too, because when we stop and think about the fact of the general fund contribution of being the 325, literally half of that is like giveth and taketh away. So technically the library only has about 150 to actually use for actual services. The rest of it's going back to facilities and IT costs.
Any other questions or comments? Yes, Councilor Stearns.
Yeah, and I apologize for coming late today. I was coming from the coast, and I tried to break as few speed laws as possible getting here. So I apologize coming in a little bit earlier if this has been discussed already, but two questions. So you really need a bilingual librarian, correct? How have you thought about just taking a librarian and having them learn Spanish? I mean, it's not an impossible thing to do, to learn Spanish, but...
No, but it'd be very expensive. I mean, we would have to be paying them to learn Spanish.
So...
They can't learn Spanish in their free time. which is basically work, and then come in and work as a librarian, yeah. We would have to be paying them to learn Spanish.
Okay. Yeah, so that's one question. Second question I have is that the late fines, and I think I bring this up every year, but the late fines are budgeted as $10,000 of income, and my understanding is that's a dime a day. If that were switched to a quarter a day, that would be an extra $15,000 of revenue, just doing the math. If 10 cents gives you $10,000, and then if you were to make it from a dime to a quarter, you would get extra $15,000.
Page 2 of this handout coming your way.
So something I was prepared for this year, Councilman Stearns. Something I didn't talk about last year, and I probably should have. If you look at the fines and fees line under revenue, which is on page 89, library fines and fees, it says we're projected to bring in 10,000. That is not just overdue fines. That is printing fees, that's out of county library card fees. It's fees for pretty much anything else. This fiscal year, we are projected to bring in less than $3,500 in overdue fines. So even if you were to double that, that's $7,000. That is not worth it. If I'm gonna be honest with you, it is not worth it for the pushback that you would get by community members. Also, fines are set by link. We try to keep those uniform so we don't confuse patrons. And we didn't actually go down in fines that long ago, so I honestly just think that by increasing fines and being the only library to do that would reduce use. Yeah, and if you see the second page of what was just passed around, that shows you the last few fiscal years, the amount of overdue fines only. So again, fines and fees, that revenue line does not just include overdue fines. Overdue fines is actually a lot less than you think it is when it comes to that portion of the revenue.
Oh, well, thank you for clarifying that.
Yes.
I was always under the impression that
yeah. I did not explain it last year, so I apologize.
Okay, well no, it makes sense now when you say it that way, but you know.
Any other?
Counselor Penn.
Who?
Counselor Penn.
Oh, looking at the wrong thing. All right, sorry, Counselor Padden.
Yeah, so one other thing, and I know we've mentioned this pretty much every year, but I'm going to ramp up my threats on this every year until something's done. There was the whole study about Canby getting its fair share of tax money through the library levy, the library tax. And you put a bunch of work into that, and they were like, the bigger libraries were like, whatever, go away, we're happy with how it is. What is it going to take? I'm assuming that we are not the only library that is getting shafted in this calculation. What is it going to take to get them to crack this open and take a harder look at it? Do we need to chain ourselves to someone's door in Salem? Do we need to get those libraries together and drive library carts full of books around the Capitol? What do we need to do to get this over the finish line?
I actually have an answer for you because we talked about this at the Link Directors meeting today. The answer is to wait a little bit longer. I think the state of the world, inflation, all of those things are going to make every single library hurt really bad in the next 5 years. And also in July, both myself and the Lake Oswego director are actually going to be presenting at the city manager meeting a 20-year plan for the libraries with the goal of going out for a vote sometime in between that period. It wouldn't be as far out as 20 years, but hopefully sometime within the next 5-ish years would be my goal. So I would just say wait. All the libraries will be hurting as bad as some of the libraries that are hurting really bad pretty soon.
Okay. Then I will put a pin in it and wait for the rally cry for another day.
Just know that there's no pin in it for me. I will be working on it until it happens. I promise you that. Thank you.
Okay, are there any other questions? I had one, I'm just looking at the intern and why that went up so much.
So long story short, the intern is not actually, the intern cost is not coming from our budget. It's a grant-funded intern, so it doesn't really matter. But in the end, it comes down to not only their wages, which are increasing because the minimum wage is increasing, but also we pay for supplies and other things for them as well. So, but that's all grant stuff. So.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job, Marissa.
No more, please.
Okay, we're going to move on to Transit Fund, pages 91 through 95. Yes, please. Todd's going to talk a little bit about ridership being up over around 100,000 per year. As you know, we run this off of a payroll tax and a lot of grants that Todd successfully gets. I have a chart here just kind of demonstrating, Todd pointed out to me that the payroll tax, as the payroll tax goes, or as the economy goes, so goes the payroll tax. So I had Denise and Katie kindly looked back to, all the way back to, if you remember, you probably don't want to remember, 2008 and 2009 recession. Look at what our payroll tax did at that point. So to Todd's point about we got to have strong economy, strong numbers, strong employment. If you go, if I can go to the next slide, there's a nice trend of payroll tax to operate the service from 2015 through 2026. And we have some numbers for you of employment figures, or top 10 employment. I don't know if it made it into this deck. I think I left that one out. But anyway, lots of good, strong research was done. No, it's what page is that? There it is. I guess it's on my last slide. I'll bounce around here really quick, just for fun. We can see our top 10 employers. A lot of work went into this slide, so thank goodness I got it in there. Thank you, Katie and Denise. So there's, you can see on the left-hand side, top 10 employers in Canby, school district number 1, and then on down through Fred Meyer, Columbia, Clarios, and then down to us, City of Canby. And that represents approximately 28% of the total employment, so just our top 10. And then back in 2016, you can see how the numbers were slightly different, and so it's changed by, of course, in 10 years, companies are moving in and out. But still, Canby School District's in there, and some of your top employers that you've had over the years. The top 10 represented 12% back 10 years ago. So back to hitting it from the top, I'm going to let Todd talk about the highlights, but because it was a successful year, and we do have a couple federal asks in for the Canby headquarters project. It's a $3.5 million ask that basically has made it into the appropriations process. Not, knock on wood, there's still things to get through, but we're in the game. And thanks to Todd for working with the federal lobbyists to help make that happen. So with that, Todd, tell us about the highlights of your transit system, Canby's transit system.
So our transit system is doing quite well. We're one of the unique cities in Oregon that has its own transit system. There's only a handful, such as Wilsonville and Sandy. Most are run by a larger organization, everybody's familiar with TriMet. And then, of course, you have Eugene system, Salem system, Rogue Valley system. So there's about 5 or 6 large systems. And then there's a handful of county systems, and just a very few cities actually have their own. And it's a good thing today to have your own system. If you've not paid attention to the news, TriMet is reducing service and laying off, and with the failure of the tax measure yesterday, they're going to reduce service further and lay off. We, on the other hand, have increased ridership over the last several years. In fact, as Randy was saying, assuming things continue to go the way they are, we're going to break over 100,000 rides. So while everybody else, not everybody, the cities are actually doing quite well, but where the larger properties are shedding rides, we're actually gaining in service. A lot of that can be attributed to our loop, which has become incredibly popular, one of our most popular services. And for those of you who may not be familiar with it, it actually circles around the city and hits just about every park, not every park, I tried, but just about every park and just about every major shopping center here. And it's become a huge boon to our elderly and disabled community and our students. Those are our two largest populations using this service. Our elderly and disabled community, it's given them a lot more freedom. Instead of having to use our dial-a-ride system where they have to call and make a lot of plans, they can get on and off whenever they want to. So a lot more independence. So they really like that. And of course, our city is small enough that a lot of the school buses won't pick up students regardless of where they live in the city. And so a lot of students ride our bus. We pick up tranche from Baker Prairie, and we pick up a lot from the high school. So we get a lot of ridership there. So that has been growing in leaps and bounds, and it's one of our most popular services to this day. So very happy about that. And the 99 has stayed relatively flat for the most part. It's gained a little bit from COVID. It dropped significantly, but it's gained back up to its normal numbers. And then, of course, our dial-a-ride has seen a decrease because our elderly and disabled folks would rather their independence and ride when they can. So we are currently, Heidi and I are working on a revised schedule that will follow our transit master plan and increase our service to Oregon City by removing some of the dial-a-ride and fill in a few of the gaps on the loop to try to improve service times for those, as that's where most of our people ride. So overall, it's been good. We did acquire 5 new vehicles this year, which is good because we just lost another one tonight. They tend to die whenever is least convenient. That's how they like to go. Honestly, we put so many miles on these buses. We buy a vehicle, and with 3 to 4 years, we've got 150 to 200,000 miles on it. And if you know anything about some of these larger vehicles, that's when your transmission goes, or your engine goes. So we lose a lot of them to that. So I try every time a grant comes up, and Heidi as well, to put in for grant-funded vehicles. And it's a little bit slower process this time around, but we got 4 of which are specifically slated to dial-a-ride. They're actually transit vehicles, and some of you rode in one of our newer ones a few weeks back as we went and looked at some pools. Mm-hmm. They're really nice. They work great for our dial-a-ride services, and they easier to maintain, and they're cheaper to operate because they're more fuel conscious. And then we have one hopefully coming soon because we just, like I said, lost a bus that will run either our loop or our 99 service. And those are 80-20 grant funded, so 80% from the federal government, 20% from us. So they're still insanely expensive, but still cheaper. We did put in for some more vehicles. It won't be this next year. Our budget's fairly flat this next year, minus the contractor increasing costs, which happens every July 1. So it'll probably be the year after, assuming the grants go through. But we will be bringing an RFP to City Council probably in March of this next year because our contract is up with our contractor. Always scary news for me because every time I seem to go back out for RFP, the costs go through the roof. So last time it was a massive increase. So a little nervous about what it looks like this time because we are up to $100 per service hour. So about $2.1 million a year to operate our service in contractor costs. That's not including our fuel costs or maintenance costs or all the other costs. That's just our contractor costs.
And you think that, not to put you on the spot, that's saving money versus hiring drivers to be employed by the city?
That's a loaded question. Every time I go out for RFP, we do a cost-benefit analysis to look at what it costs internal versus external. Mm-hmm. It's always come in a little bit cheaper, but that we're starting to get to that cross. I will tell you, if you ask my preference, I'd like to bring it in-house. I know that means 20 new employees for the city, but it also means we actually control the quality of the service. And that's always been our biggest challenge with the contractor. I just unfortunately recently had to ask them to make a management change because the management was not doing. Heidi and I do way more work than we should be doing when we're paying somebody $100 an hour. I mean, she's out there rescuing a bus because the contractor doesn't have enough people to do it. Where in-house, I'd have a lot more control over that type of stuff. It'll cost us more ultimately, but I also have a lot more flexibility. For instance, let's say the economy tanks because we are very economically tied, right? If I go to the contractor and say we're cutting service, because that's when you, in transit, that's where the money's saved, right? You cut service because that's bodies and buses on the road, fuel and everything else. The contractor will say, great, we have to increase our rate because they spread their costs across all the hours, right? All their fixed costs get spread across all the hours. So they come back to you and say, we have to increase our rate because we have to cover our fixed costs. So their rate goes up. You can see the problem there. My costs are going up, now my rate's going up further, so I have to cut service further. Whereas we can make unfortunate decisions, but cuts that don't increase our rate would actually save us money. So that helps in the long run. It is ultimately slightly more expensive to bring it in-house. It's a long answer.
Those of you who don't know, Heidi, she's in the back there. Say hi. Heidi, you heard last week, she's running the court community service kind of program with our folks that are trying to earn good time off and community service, right?
Yeah. It's a great program. It's really helped out getting our buses clean and get our bus stops clean. We've also are trying to work with parks to get some stuff done there. We're looking at maybe we could tackle that Frisbee golf course with these folks. So
there's an idea.
But it's been, and it's good for the community members too, because they get to stay in their community and not have to go to Clackamas County and whatever hours they have, which are much more strict. Heidi actually will shift her time and come in on Saturday to help support, because some of these are youth and they need, they need to be in school, so it's either after school or a weekend, and so she'll shift her time to support these folks. So it's been good for them and it's been good for us.
Thank you.
Good, thank you. Any questions, comments? Yes, Councilor Stearns.
This might be a question more for the finance department, but when it comes to the payroll tax, do you guys do any auditing of any, especially in the larger businesses here, as far as how they're allocating their payroll between TriMet and Canby? I know there's kind of an incentive to allocate, to fudge more towards Canby than TriMet because of the cost savings, but I also know that sometimes people can, without much oversight, people can get lazy and decide that they may not want to pay as much as.
I'll let them get to the specifics, but we have a dedicated person who and she's fantastic. She really is. She's been digging back years and looking at business numbers and determining what they should be paying. Doesn't always work in my favor. Every once in a while I get an email from her saying, by the way, I'm refunding this huge chunk of money, which is always depressing. But she's auditing businesses, and you see part of that number going up really is her hard work, and it's been really fantastic to see what she's done. And she's got more to do, but it's been really great.
And also in my profession, I deal with a lot of people who don't have to educate that they don't know that there's a transit tax. And this probably won't collect a lot of money because a lot of the ones I deal with are smaller businesses, and you're basically probably losing about $400 or $500 off of them for the year. But I don't know if there's any outreach to let people know that if they're in the Canby urban growth boundary, that they need to pay that tax.
Finance Director, Denise?
Actually, she's very good about following up on those, and she also does the business licenses, which is a really good tie-in for her to, if they're coming in with a new business license, or she finds someone who didn't have a business license that needed a business license, well, guess what? They're also going to be needing to be paying transit tax. So it's the combination works very well.
Do you guys have access to the federal, because I know like the city of Portland does, and I believe TriMet as well have access to the federal tax information of the people that live in the area, because I know every once in a while we get notices that says we looked at and saw that you had a Schedule C and you didn't report any money to us. Speaking of the city of Portland, business income tax. And I don't know if there's a similar resource where you can look, see if somebody who has a Schedule C and not paying the self-employment TriMet tax. Or I don't know.
I'm sure there's a company out there, maybe TriMet uses them, or Chariots, that does do audits. I don't know.
Basically, they compare to federal. Because we get that, I'm sorry. Because we get like, just the other day, one client said, we got a 4797 form, and you didn't report the income. And so I know that's getting from federal data, and I know you could probably use a Schedule C or even federal,
Schedule C?
Well, that's what's based on it for an individual sole proprietor, and you could say, basically you take that income, if it's 100% in Canby, then the math's easy. If it's not, then you have to.
So TriMet has the benefit of the state collects TriMet's payroll tax. So the state actually has all that information, so that's how they know. We would have to contact the state and have a conversation to get that information. We've never done that, and I don't know any of the smaller areas that have. They've just relied on the cities themselves to do it. But that's why they're so good at catching those.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I know I'm going against my clients when I say this, but I'm in the role of helping the city out here right now.
Sure.
Councilor Davis?
Thank you, and thanks, Todd. If you made the decision to bring the drivers in-house, how long would it take you to ramp that up?
A while. There's some logistical issues we have to deal with. They have a very separate union. We'd have to figure out how that worked. There's some regulatory issues that we'd have to have the attorneys look over when you do something like that. And then we'd have to figure out exactly what our costs are, the number of employees it would take, right? Because they have back-end infrastructure that we don't have. So for instance, I have Heidi, but I would need an actual higher up manager to handle the actual employee portion of it, because you're talking about 20 employees that are working from 4 a.m. to 11 p.m. 6 days a week. So you need another level of management. You also need a supervisor. So it would take me a good while. So I don't have an exact number.
So it'd be something that you'd potentially take a year or better?
I would say at least a year, yeah.
Okay.
Yes, Mrs. Thompson.
So Todd, over the years, the past 4 or 5 years, what have you seen was it cost per hour in the contract? How have you seen that rise?
It's skyrocketed.
So can you give us some examples?
Sure. So I started in 2018 in Columbia County, who also had a contract. It was $40 an hour, and everybody thought that was expensive. When I got here, it was $60 an hour in 2020. Mm-hmm. Now we're at $100 an hour.
Okay.
So you can see how we're escalating.
Right.
And to understand on the contract side, we're paying for bodies, right? We own the vehicles, we pay the gas, we pay the maintenance, we're paying for human beings. And anybody who owns a business knows that is your number one cost, and that cost has skyrocketed across the board. I mean, you see it in the city, all our salaries, benefits have gone through the roof. So that's why that number keeps climbing.
And my understanding is, because I work with you,
yeah.
that in terms of the number of real entities out there to produce an RFP and go out and try to recruit is very limited. I was kind of surprised.
We see maybe 3. There was Sandy just went out, and there was a new player in the field, and so their rates did go up, but not as high as we thought. So there's maybe some hope there with that third player. But yeah, I mean, it used to be First Transit, MTR, and MV. First Transit got bought out by Transdev. So now it's Transdev, MTR, and MV. MTR is small. MV is larger, but Transdev has taken over most of those contracts. They're a huge organization. They're international. I believe their parent company is also Veolia, which runs the water system. So there's only a very small handful of folks that do this because it's not a profit-making business. Yeah, margins are fairly low.
Okay.
Yeah.
Councilor Wadham?
So bringing them in-house too, that would also introduce PERS into the mix as well.
Yeah.
So, right.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I don't know how that works. I don't know if you can negotiate a contract that doesn't allow PERS. That would be a legal question. So because, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Todd. Now we're going to pivot to swimming. We have Nathan, our new manager on site, swim center. Not new because he's grown up in Canby and worked there forever. But page 96 through 100. I imagine we might have lots of questions for Nathan. He's been doing an amazing job. And really proud to have him as part of our leadership team. As you know, there's a swim levy, an O&M operations levy for 49 cents per thousand, brings in about $1 million a year, 1.1, and it's going to expire in June of next year. So we have a November levy opportunity and then a May levy opportunity. So we all saw what happened Tuesday, and so we're proceeding very carefully into this with the city council. So there's no projected increases in this budget. It's status quo. Nathan's going to provide a lot of highlights, but Chief Dale, the current fire chief, brought to our attention that the Canby Swim Center is an essential service because in the firemen and women's eyes, they're saving lives. They're teaching people how to swim. And so they're saving potential drownings. And I hadn't thought about it that way. So kudos to the 19,000 lessons per year, which is about the population of Canby that Nathan oversees. Modest rates, competitive rates with our neighbors, $4.50 for 2 hours, $3.25 for a resident of Canby for 2 hours. You can get a $90 pass for 3 months. And Nathan the city also accepts the Oregon Trail card for folks that present that. So that's a nice benefit that's provided there. The other piece before we get into Nathan talking about all the amazing stuff he does, the council is also looking at doing a little bit of a remodel of the bathrooms, and the prices are escalating. So we're going to have to come back to council and talk to the council about their willingness to, based on our bids that come in, their appetite to do that versus trying to pivot and go a different direction likely with our partners at Canby School District. That said, Nathan, tell us about the swim center and all the amazing stuff you're doing over there.
Yeah, thank you. As Randy said, I'm new as the aquatic manager, but I was the facility operator there for several years before that, program coordinator before that, lifeguard, et cetera. So my perspective is a little different, I think, than it might otherwise be. As Randy said, that pool was built by members of the community to save lives, right? It was recognized that we were surrounded by rivers. They came together to do that, and that's really been core to the services that we provide. Randy mentioned our competitive rates. To be honest, they're they are very inexpensive, particularly on the lesson side. And we do that on purpose because, that is our mission, right? We have our operating levy that we are very thankful for, and it allows us to provide that service. And that really drives everything that we do. You can go ahead and look through the budget, similar to what Marissa said. Most of it is rinse, repeat. There isn't a whole lot going on there that is different. Our greatest challenges are and continue to be staffing, and not particularly at the full-time level, but part-time. We're an industry that runs on high school kids by and large, and aquatics in general is struggling on that. And in Canby, it's no different. I don't have the benefit of a community college or some other large center of young people, and so we do the best that we can. But that is definitely the limiting factor in, the amount of programs that we can provide. That said, we're open 5 in the morning till 9 o'clock at night, Monday through Thursday. We close a little earlier on Friday. So we continue to provide, the maximum service that we can. I know those of you guys that had a chance to look through the survey, there are definitely members of our community that would like to see us offering more swimming lessons. And if I had more people to do it and more space to do it, we certainly would love to do that. But this pool was built in 1970, right? And the community was significantly smaller then. And so we're trying to do the best we can with the resources that we have available. Yes.
All right.
It's not up to me.
Are we ready for questions?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Councilor
Nice job,
Waddell?
Nathan.
So, as was brought up, coming up soon next year, talking about operational levy. If that did not go through, what would that do to rates to cover, if we had to cover that didn't come out of the general fund? Like, what would be the offset? Would it go from $3 to $6? What would that look like?
No, we would not operate without the operating levy.
So you couldn't even operate at all? You have to shut down?
No, not at all. No, I mean, if you look at our revenue that we bring over the counter there.
Page 99.
$1 million.
$135,000
Out of $1.3 million.
there. Yeah. Now, could I, let's say I triple that.
So it would have to, at least 5 times it would have to increase in order to cover the cost.
Yeah, right. And that's assuming that didn't result in a loss of business.
9
Yeah.
times,
At least.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Hence the reason that we haven't ever really dug into like raising our prices to, really try to capture extra revenue. I mean, really, you're just inflicting a cost on the people that are paying the levy and really making a small dent in the overall revenue.
So messaging is definitely going to be critical. Thank you.
Mrs. Thompson, did you have a question?
Well, I was going to ask if you could remind me, I'm trying to go in the Wayback Machine in this cobweb up here and remember how long or at what point the levy was approved. Do you remember that?
It was 2000 or 2002.
Yeah.
So this is 20. Yeah.
Okay. And I think it was at that point that it got shifted from the general fund. In other
That's
words,
exactly
that was
correct.
the whole point.
Yes.
We were going to have it. Tremendous community support, which
Yes, ma'am.
continues to this day. Got it. Okay.
That's
Thanks.
correct.
Yes, Vice Chair Canton-Wing.
Yes, thank you. Just a historical question. Excuse me. I haven't lived here for very long. How has the levy performed historically?
Strong.
Strong.
Yeah. The one and only year that it did not pass was when it was bundled with some additional park and rec messaging. And so I believe that was in November, and so we had to go back out in the following May, stripped back down to just the pool.
Sure.
And it passed once again.
Thank you. Just as a joke, as a parent who recently signed his daughter up for swim lessons, you should double the charge for the out-of-service area people who are in the same waiting room as I am.
No, I know you said it's a joke. It's actually very valid, and it's something that we're acutely aware of. We also have the ability to open the registration earlier for residents of the city of Canby. Mm-hmm. What I don't have is a way of verifying that. And so our challenge has been, if you're in Tualatin Hills, for example, the Tualatin Hills Park and Rec District is massive with a huge administrative capacity and such.
They just passed a bond Tuesday night too, by the way.
Yeah. In order to get resident status there, you need to show up with documentation of where you live, who lives in your household. And then they get your little box, and you have to do that, I believe, every 3 years. As you can imagine, that's not something that I'm going to do at the Canby Swim Center with my high school junior at the counter. I 100% sympathize with you, and it's something we've had extensive talks about.
Councilor Patton?
Yes, thank you. A couple of things. What you were just talking about there, I'd like to piggyback on that. Do you feel, or do you have a suspicion that if you had a better mechanism to validate whether people who are paying an in-town fee or in-district fee are actually in the district, do you think that you would capture, a noticeable amount of revenue if we were to clamp down on that sort of thing?
I mean, it would depend on whether or not we significantly raised the non-resident fee relative to what it is now. So for right now, you're paying essentially $4 per class if you are a resident and $6 if you are a non-resident. Would that generate significantly more revenue in and of itself? No. I think, to be honest, I think it would be less of a revenue driver and more of a reward for the people of the city of Canby who are paying for the levy. And, we open our lesson registration on 10 a.m. on, I don't remember what it was, May 19th or something, or May 6th, I believe. And it was largely full by 10:30. And so I'm sure that we have plenty of people who are paying into the levy and are upset that they didn't get their kids into those lessons.
30 minutes.
Yeah, it's not entirely full, but the premium spots, our evening lessons for the entire summer are largely full. I do still have some room in the daytime classes.
So I guess kind of where my brain went with this was you and I definitely would not expect your teenage helper down there at the pool to be arguing with an adult as to whether they do or do not live in the city. I have found that as time has gone on, adults have become more like children and become more belligerent, which is sad, but it is the state of things. But we have city staff in City Hall that are used to dealing with unruly people. And so it might make sense if we want to go down that sort of path that they would need to, the organization, the entity that would do that vetting process would actually be the folks at City Hall. And then they would take something, a validation paper or some sort of form, the person registering would take that then over to the swim center and say, I've had my paperwork looked at and now I'm ready to pay the fee. Or something along those lines. I just wanted to plant that seed there as you might start to slice and dice how you can maybe squeeze a few more pennies out, or provide a bigger carrot for people who are paying the levy to continue to pay the levy when it comes up. And when it comes to the levy, as we noticed with a lot of the levies that did not make it over the finish line this election cycle, I think it is one thing that I have taken away from that is that if we go down that path, we as a city are going to need to put a concerted effort into interacting with the community to get to hear what they have to say, to propose what we are asking, and then try to meet all of that in the middle. I fear that part of the problem why some of these did not pass is because it was just expected that people would support it, and there wasn't a lot of work. There wasn't enough time because a lot of it was done very quickly. But I foresee us, if we want to get these sort of things over the finish line, like a new pool levy or something along those lines, we're essentially going to have to do something like we've done for the comp plan, and have multiple meetings with community members to entice them to come and hear what we have to say and get feedback from them and give them time to vent and flail and make their voices heard, and then hopefully slowly over time convince them of the necessity of these sort of things. So that's sort of how I've taken that. And as we move forward, I'm going to keep that in mind as we try to
Thank you.
Prepare for that financial future.
Thank you.
Counselor Davis.
Thank you. Nathan, compliments to you and your staff, because you guys truly are saving lives. And the fact that the Canby School District sends people over for swim lessons, that's very unique for a community. And so good job with that. I guess my question's around, and I'm sure you've been thinking about this too, but we had the opportunity to go and tour the Sherwoods Community Center, as well as the Newburgh. And both of those have tied in the swim centers with athletic type of things as well, whether it's weight rooms, tracks, things like that. And Newburgh actually has 2 swimming pools, Olympic and as well as a smaller one. And so our swimming pool is 1970. And I've heard that there's some upkeep maintenance things that potentially are going to continue to happen if we don't look to the future. How much longer do you think we can live in that facility?
Well, that's a multi-pronged question. So how much longer can we live in it based on capacity is separate from just the physical breakdown of the facility.
Sure.
The things that are exposed mechanically, pumps, things like that, those are replaced, right? So where you are up against on just the maintenance side are embedded features, the pipes that run underneath the pool. Mm-hmm. If we were to have to dig those up, you're looking at roughly $500,000 to, trench everything out, replace everything, and that was very high on my list of concerns when we recently had to replace our main water line to the pool that was of the same age, right? That said, that's really the only embedded feature. Most everything else is available. So it's less about the facility maintenance or the breakdown of the structure itself, and more about just the capacity and its ability to serve the community. You could make the argument that we don't do that now, right? We have more demand for lessons than we are able to serve. And honestly, a lot of our recreation numbers are lower than they have historically been. Those are trending lower. Just for the casual family that wants to take their kids to swim on a Saturday, they can do it there, or they can drive a little farther to the pool in Newburgh, right, with a water slide and so on and so forth. It's not a destination in the same way that a lot of these newer facilities are. So really who we're serving now are, the hardcore swim lesson person, anything I put an instructor on, water exercise, swim team, your avid lap swimmer, those people that are really committed to be there on a regular basis. But I don't capture the casual swimmer in the same way that a larger facility does. And as you pointed out, they don't have a single tank, right? Pools aren't built that way anymore. You have multiple tanks. You have other features, whether it's gym, community rooms, and so on. And incidentally, the Newburgh pool that replaced was also built in 1970.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any, Counselor Stearns?
Couple of questions. The 49-cent levy, as it's when it's going out in November or May, is 49 cents enough, or maybe 50 cents instead of 49 cents? I mean, the question is, I know that there's everything. This is the swim center levy is subject to compression,
yes,
right? So raising it a lot may not bring in that much more revenue, correct?
Correct.
If I'm okay, so that was my question. But is there any need for anything bigger, or what we have right now is?
There really isn't. I was prepared for your question of what would you do with more money? Honestly, money isn't the issue for us.
Yeah.
It's the space and the part-time staff. Those are our limiting factors. I suppose if I was paying high school kids $40 an hour, sure.
Might get a few more.
Go ahead and give me more money, but, we're not going to pay that for lifeguards. We have, if I have 10 kids show up for a job application, the first thing we have to do is, well, they have to be lifeguard certified. In order to do that, you have to pass a Red Cross swim test. And right out the gate, 5 of them can't. Right? I mean,
Do we have classes for?
Sure. Yeah. In fact, and we'll tell those 5, hey, we have adult lessons, come on in, we'll keep working with you. But, they're embarrassed or whatnot. Or I'll be honest, I don't understand why somebody who can't swim would apply for a lifeguard position. But nevertheless, it opens their eyes very quickly. If you can't pull me off the bottom of the pool, this isn't the job for you.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Oh, yes, sorry, Mrs. Thompson.
So Nathan, if something did in the infrastructure piping beneath the facility rupture and you had to dig it up, that would close the pool?
It would close the pool while it was being fixed, but that's why we have
But I mean, in terms
saved the money that we have.
Oh, okay, so you have a capital, some reserve to be able to make that repair.
That's exactly why, because we aren't on the general fund, and we knew that we weren't going to be able to turn around and come to the general fund for those repairs. So over these 20 years, we have been saving and saving and saving.
Page 100.
Got it, perfect, thanks. I hope it doesn't happen.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. Well, I'm wondering if we need to take maybe a 5-minute break?
Thank you.
Yep. Thanks. 5 minutes.
Recording stopped.
All right, Canby, we are back for our budget meeting. And we will move on to the street fund.
All right. Thank you, Madam Chair. On pages 101. Thank you, Madam Chair. On pages 101 through 105 is our street fund. I imagine you might have some questions of Spencer as we get into this. Very impressive fund that you've built over the years, Canby. We're taking care of approximately 54 miles of streets in Canby with 8.9 FTE. We're projecting nearly a $17 million fund, 14 million of which is locked down in either projects or reserves. So you should feel good about the list, which we'll get into a little bit later for the capital outlay. Spencer did a little presentation last night at council on the summer paving schedule. But here you have a street maintenance fee in Canby. A lot of cities don't have that. And you also have a local gas tax of 3 cents. A lot of cities don't have either. So you've done a lot of good work in the past to help really build this document. I'll just show visually, which is your street maintenance program document. Many of you have probably seen this before. I know the council has this. I don't know the last time this was updated. Spencer, not to put you on the spot.
No, if I remember correctly, this was updated in 18, working on getting an update for it this year.
So all those big numbers I just threw out, they're running it. Just keep in mind that they are operating that street fund with about 1.7 million is all in M&S and labor. So kudos to a lean street fund machine. They contract some work out. You've seen, you're going to see a picture later tonight, and we have a grand opening of Walnut Street. But with that said, I don't have any other highlights in Spencer unless you want to talk about some projected projects in the pipeline in this budget, or we can entertain questions because the street fund is kind of a fun discussion to have as a budget committee, especially with the resources that you all have put in place to take care of Canby streets. Spencer?
Yeah, like you said, the street fund is a fund. Say that fast. Yeah. But it's kind of what everybody sees. And, you know, you go to neighboring cities, and if there's potholes, nobody likes to go there. But Canby, for the most part, I feel like we do a pretty good job of trying to maintain and keep up. It's really helpful now that we've taken over county roads and been able to bring those up to standards, or getting ready to bring up to standards. For a long time, most of the road complaints were coming in on county and state roads. So that now that 99's paved and we're taking over all the county roads, excited for that. Like Randy said, Walnut Street's going, grand opening next weekend, or not grand opening.
Ribbon cutting?
Not ribbon. Groundbreaking.
It's gonna be great.
So yeah. Kind of future projects. I heard back that our crack sealer is close to being delivered. So thank you to council for allowing us to get that. And hopefully the guys will have good enough weather to maintain and start going out and doing that here in June.
Pine Street is going to be a big one.
We're going out for an RFP for engineering for redesigning of Pine Street now that we've taken that over from the county, from Territorial all the way down to 99, and hopefully realigning that intersection to make it a little safer and get it away from the train tracks and help with stacking up on 99. It'll probably end up being a phased project. So we'll do maybe a third of it to half of it one year, then come back and do the next one the next year. It's kind of the broad brush of the streets at the current moment, if anyone had questions.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Spencer.
Oh, yes.
Where's the line item in here for where you're paving, where you're doing pavement overlays for streets that are deteriorating?
That would be under the capital for street maintenance fee projects.
105, page 105.
Okay.
Second line down in the capital outlay right now.
Restricted for future maintenance?
Well, look at capital outlay in the middle, Jack, Mr. Pendleton. On page 105, it says capital outlay.
Right in the middle of the page.
I know, I'm looking for the.
Yeah, so there's a.
How do you determine what needs overlays and everything? The reason I'm asking, because I'm starting to notice that some of the streets are not what they were a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Yep. So
And the overlays, the next line.
we run off of our PCI rating, the pavement condition index. It was last updated in 18. So that plays the majority of what streets are going to get paved, as well as coordinating with everybody on what else is going on. Because last thing we want to do is pave a street and then a year later comms come through or something like that. The last few years, we originally were paving, when the street maintenance fee projects were going on, we were paving about 3.5 to 4 miles, centerline miles a year. The last few years, for the same amount of money, we've been doing about 1 mile to 1.5 miles. So that's what Jamie has been helping work with on, is along with the street maintenance task force, is updating the street maintenance fee, just hopefully bring in some more revenue so we can start doing closer to 3 to 4 miles a year again.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, Councilor Stearns.
The gas tax, it's 3 cents, right? Okay. And it's been that way for a long time? So is there any way to make that higher? And the reason why I say that is that inflation. So 3 cents today is a lot less than 3 cents 15 years ago, right? It's about 15 years ago when it passed.
Councilor Hensley has the answer. I heard
It
her.
has to go to the ballot, and you saw what happened with Measure 120, so.
So, well, my understanding is it didn't go to the ballot when it was first.
That's
Did it?
correct.
It has to.
So anything?
So to her point, they made a legislative change a few years back in Salem that now makes any adjustments in your local gas tax, you got to put it on the ballot.
Okay, okay. So in essence.
It was part of a deal, transportation package deal.
Okay, so in essence, and this is not a judgment on whether we should pay more or less gas tax, but an observation that that source of revenue will continue to diminish due to the devaluation of currency.
Yeah, less
or
people.
inflation, as.
Sorry, Councilor.
Yeah.
I think the talking point is more and more people, this is what I'm hearing from ODOT, and why they're struggling, are using electric e-vehicles. And so the purchase of fuel is going down, so we're getting less. But I haven't seen that in our projections.
Well, even if it doesn't come less, even if it's the same amount of gallons purchased every year, the 3 cents is going to be less valuable.
Right.
Because it's a non-indexed to inflation. And so.
No.
I guess, we can do what we can do, we can't do what we can't do, but I always thought it was advisable that our funding source should always be tied to inflation. The same thing with the street maintenance fee. They had the same problem where you have a fixed amount, loses its value, and then if it's caught early or if it's adjusted to inflation, people can understand, oh, it's an inflationary adjustment. Yeah, costs go up and everything goes up, but if you delay it for long enough, people get really spooked if you have to raise it by a large amount, or you have to tell them that funding source just doesn't do anything, and that's why the streets are terrible, And so I'm in favor of gradual increases rather than large, giant increases,
100%.
especially something like that. If it was a sales tax and a percentage of the cost of fuel, then we wouldn't have to worry about it because inflation would take care of it. But since it's only a monetary three pennies, it's going to lose its value to us as a city.
All right.
Absolutely.
Councilor Patton, did you have a question? Your hand is up.
Yep.
Yes, I'm working on unmuting myself. Yes, I have a couple. So one of the things that we talked about over last year was a lot of these things are driven from PCI, the Paving Condition Index. And it had been several years since we updated that. I thought that there was a plan to update that this year or next year. Is that still a thing?
Yep.
Did I misunderstand that
No, working on updating it.
for this year?
Yes.
Okay, excellent.
Hopefully,
Another thing is,
hopefully it will roll out shortly after we bring forward the, our recommendation for the street maintenance fee task force.
awesome, and that's, because I know that is coming, this will be the first year in many years, I'm not gonna rail on about that, so, everybody takes solace in that. One of the things that, this is kind of an off-the-wall thing I'm gonna throw out there. 99E. Granted, 99E is not our problem, but really it is. Because when 99E is a hot mess, everybody comes down on you folks at the city thinking that it's your mess. With the failure of the funding for ODOT, one of the things that I have feared, and I think I had chatted with the ODOT guy about this when we were doing the when we were doing the ribbon cutting for the newly paved 99E, was that they needed to make sure to maintain it. Because if you drive through Oregon City, you will notice that 99E through there is a hot mess, even though it was only paved a few years back. And most of the problems are in the cracks, like where the seams in the pavement were. And they've just started to yard out and get bigger and bigger. The thing I'm wondering is, if ODOT is not able to do this work themselves, I would be very interested in fielding whether we could come up with some sort of agreement with ODOT that when 99E needs to have its cracks sealed, that we work with them to do it. That we say, look, we understand that you don't have a lot of funding for this, but this is an important thing for the city. And so if you give us money to essentially do the job, we'll do the job, or something along those lines. I think that's something that we should be thinking about and trying to control our own destiny over there now that we have that piece of equipment. Because I really don't want to see it happen. I don't want to see what's happening in Oregon City happen here in the next, 10 years, which will be inevitable. So that's just a seed I'm going to plant there. And then another one I'm going to kind of put out there is Mr. Tay had mentioned that after the pavement and all that stuff was done over there on 10th Avenue or 10th Street, that they were cutting into it the other day. And I think they were putting in some sort of marker or something like that. But we've talked about this before, and I'm going to bring it up again. I really think we need to look at some sort of cutting fee. That unless someone's sewer is blown up or something along those lines, all of the different utilities know that we're going to be doing this work. They are informed that we are going to be doing these things. And if after the fact they need to cut in there to do some remedial thing, that at least the first couple of years of that work being done, we should be getting some sort of compensation for them essentially causing a failure point within the street. So that's just something I think we need to put on the list to investigate doing here sooner than later. And I just want to thank everybody in Public Works for all the work that they do. I think Canby has one of the best street systems for its size in the area. And I'm proud of the work that you all do in order to ensure that. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Waterman?
The index update, is that something we do in-house or that we contract out?
It's contracted out.
Okay. And that it's in the budget here? Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, Councilor Stearns.
I just want to ask my question that I try to ask everybody, is if you had more money or a wish of something else, what would you have, what would you do with it?
You know, I didn't come up with an answer for this fund.
They gave you the crack ceiling, which is probably nice.
Yes, that is very nice to have. There's always new equipment coming out. The next one, it's still being kind of fielded in a few places here in Oregon, would be a mastic dispenser, and that's for more of your, if it's already past the crack sealing phase to where the asphalt is we call it I can't speak, alligatored cracking, so the block cracking. It's kind of like a mixture of tar and very fine rock to go over those areas and kind of fill in for depressions and stuff like that. But they're really expensive right now, and I don't know how we could utilize it at this point, but that would probably be is looking into something like that in the future.
Yes, Councilor Waterman.
Do we have our own equipment for doing the crosswalks, et cetera?
We do have a striper. We currently don't have any of the thermoplastic.
That's what I was thinking of. So would that be something that would be beneficial? Seems like we're always
cost-wise, bringing that in-house, the equipment is expensive and the material is really expensive, and it doesn't last for storage for very long.
So it's better to keep that up.
That one's a little bit better for contracting out.
Anything else? Yes, Mrs. Thompson.
So the alligator fixer that you were talking about, so you said you didn't see that you'd have a need for it? Is that what I heard you say right now? You don't really see that much along on our roads? I didn't hear it. So.
No, it's fairly new to the market. So I'd be curious to see how well the product lasts more long-term. It's kind of the new fancy thing that there's a Jackson County is working on getting one, and some other places in the state are working on
because I can see
them.
that it could defray some long-term if it was really that good of an idea. Great. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right, we got Tyler and Jamie are here. We're moving into the old transient room fund. The whole page 106.
Just one page.
A lot done out of this fund with little revenue. I think we have one hotel. As part of our forecasting and coming out of this budget, looking at additional revenue sources, this will be an area where we can explore. Maybe there's other folks that are renting nights through Airbnb or whatnot. You can look into that in Canby. I'm not sure how much of a game changer that would be, other than actually bringing hotel or boutique hotel to Canby, which we're actively working on at this time. As you know, you can only use that's prescribed every dollar you get, so it's restricted 70% in one category and the other 30% unrestricted. So Jamie, if you don't mind, can you talk about some of the neat tourism promotion work that we're doing out of this budget in the upcoming year? There you go.
One of the things that we've heard from our local businesses, and just since we have some new members on the budget committee, marketing and tourism marketing are two different things. So tourism marketing is bringing people from outside of the community. Usually the marker is about 50 miles or so into the community or marketing to them. But one of the things that we've heard from our local businesses is really about broadening the scope of our marketing. So we're showing individual businesses what they make, what they have available. We have met a videographer that we met through a partnership with Mount Hood Territories, which is the Clackamas County tourism arm, who we are working with to do some of those videos and more on the ground type marketing things where they'll be looking at itineraries. So here's a day that you could have in Canby. It could be an agricultural day with Swan Island Dahlias and the fairgrounds. It could be a downtown shopping day, for example, with some of our women's boutiques. And so through that partnership, we were able to meet this person, and now we're going to be working with her a little bit at the end of this year, but really broaden our scope into next year. That will also show some of the events and the other, tourism-related items that we have, TMK, I mentioned Swan Island Dahlias. That increase in partnership, not just with Mountain Hood Territories, but it's really important across the board for what we do. So for example, this past year, we did a Share the Love marketing campaign with the Chamber of Commerce, and then we were able to take that piece and use that with the Travel Oregon advertisement and really make that go further. So we're hoping to continue to expand our partnerships with our local tourism partners like the Chamber. We also worked with the Clackamas County Fairgrounds and Event Center to do a push for our small businesses, restaurants, and retail, so that when people were coming to the Spring Garden Fair, they were getting a, come back and spend money, and being able to make that tie. So as people come in, we're able to introduce them to businesses. We look to continue to expand that reach. And then all of these different aspects of marketing really helps to continue to put Canby on the map. This past year, we completed a study with Johnson Economics, which is about room night generators. And that was something that we heard specifically from a developer and a hotelier that were working together that are looking at Canby, that said this is something that can help us to ensure that we are, not just feeling positive about Canby as a potential hotel site, but also have the numbers to back it up. And that included surveys with our industrial businesses, and we had a great response with that. So we're hoping to just do more of the same and really leverage those partnerships that we've increased over the last several years.
Well done. Thank you, Jamie.
Do you have any questions? Yes. Mr. Tate.
I'm pretty sure at the last legislative session, they were trying to break the 70-30 mandate.
Yes.
I'm assuming that didn't.
House Bill 4148. So that's something that we're looking into, because we were able to use in this next budget year, we're able to use we have 30% of that because of the split, but we'll be bringing it forward to consider splitting that to the 50-50, which was covered by that House bill.
Thank you.
Yes, Councilor Waterman.
For our tourism marketing, are we only using the transient funds for that, or do we allocate any general funds towards our tourism marketing?
We do some of our more focused marketing with the general fund, and then we use the tourism marketing for the more expansive stuff.
Okay, so pretty much anything outside the city is just the whatever we get.
And a lot of that, I will say, it costs more, a magazine versus a magazine that's like a Travel Oregon piece versus something that we're doing locally. So some of that costs more. So having that tourism money dedicated towards that reach is helpful. And then having the more local piece that is part of the general fund is where we cover that.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Madam Chair, we're going to pivot to the SDC fund, page 107 and 108. I'd like to call Don Hardy to the podium here, and thank you, Maya, for propping up this slide. Page 107, this is where I'll just read a brief statement just so we're all level set on the same page. In Oregon, system development charges are one-time fees imposed on new development, redevelopment, or changes in the use that increase the impact on public infrastructure. Under ORS Statute 223, these charges are typically broken down into three components, which you'll see here. Thank you. The three components that are listed on page 107 as you look through the revenue, one is called a reimbursement fee, and Don helped me with this. The purpose of the reimbursement fee is to recoup the cost of existing infrastructure that has available capacity to serve new development. Then you have the improvement fee you'll see in each one of these. The purpose of that is for funds future capital improvements that increase system capacity to meet future demands. We note in Canby draft SDC methodology report that an improvement fee is the eligible cost of planned capital projects per unit of growth that such projects will serve. And then lastly, the administration costs. Some of the SDCs that we collect are eligible for administration overhead. And you can see just on this visual on the screen, the city council right now is engaged in a process to raise our system development fees of development. You're hearing a lot on the news about growth, paying for growth, particularly with data centers right now. That's top of mind. But other developments as well, like in the Pioneer Industrial Park. So our Parks SDC currently is $7,784. The council's likely going to phase in over 3 years an increase to that. So you can see those 3 columns here, 1, 2, and 3, and so on and so forth for transportation, sanitary, sewer, and storm. That's what's represented on page 107. And Don, could you add any more context to the SDC?
Yeah.
$17.5 million, $18.5 million fund.
Absolutely. I think this last year was a really stellar year for industrial. And so that is reflected there. There is an adjustment in proposed 2027. And that's looking at like 60 to 80% adjustment going into 27. So, and that's assuming that council will adopt the rates that will be before them on July 1, which Randy talked about on the table above. So even though, in spite of the fact that there's really not the pent-up industrial demand in 27 that we see right now, although we're starting to see several developments that, again, these are difficult to predict, but we have 2 industrial developments right now that are in the process. One is a diesel repair and one is a spring manufacturer that's already in the city. Those 2 are moving forward with their projects. But even, the index here is with the adjustment for the forecast, the residential would still largely carry a higher number without industrial with the adjustments that are anticipated. So these adjustments, we think are proportionate to the need based on what Randy talked about in terms of looking at the 20-year forecast of, we have a 20-year park forecast that we spent a lot of time on, 20-year park horizon in terms of what those projects are, and that's reflected in the total cost and phased in over 3 years. We have a transportation system plan that's been adopted. Those represent financially constrained projects, which means that those are projects that qualify for SDCs. And then storm and sewer are really pretty minor adjustments with that. I'm happy to go into further detail. I think next year looks pretty strong still for single family and multifamily residential. There is another project also for, there's a memory care project, which is a place that's assisted living and memory care that's also proposed to go in as well. So those are all additive here. I think next year will look largely like what we're seeing this last year, which is not a bad year at all for collections. We've had some years that have been less, but it was a fairly strong year, and some of the industries, some of the warehouses paid significant SDCs, and that is part of the story for this last fiscal year. I think it looks good overall. I think it's going to continue. I think regardless of where the council ends up landing on the adjustments for the system development charges, which is up to council to determine what those are going to be, regardless of the adjustment, it will be, I think, still a positive thing looking forward and paying for infrastructure that's needed for the future for Canby.
All right.
Don?
And questions, comments? Yes, Councilor Stearns.
I notice we have, unless I'm reading this wrong, proposed $18 million into the fund after everything is said and done, and then we're only spending about, looks like close to $5 million as part of this budget out of the SDCs. Am I reading that correct? Okay. And so that means that there's really about, looks like about 14 or $13.5 million that won't be spent. If you could just educate us a little bit about when that money will be spent or what is impeding it from being used. It sounds like a fund with lots of money, but little use. I assume it's saving for future projects. But
Great question. I may have to have Spencer come down and help a bit on this, but hold on, I'll try to answer it first before I bring him down. But there's a capital facilities, quick question, capital facilities plan a CIP that is indexing projects that we're looking at a 5-year horizon and looking out on those projects. What's ironic is on the bubble list, there's also a construction manager position that is on the bubble list as well. And I think that's part of some of this is that it's very difficult, I think, to execute all the projects that we have with the current staff at Public Works. I'm going to let Spencer speak to that issue, but I believe that is a true situation where, yes, there's money there, but we're not always able to execute all of that because of staffing issues.
Would a project manager be able to be paid out of the SDC funds?
Great question. Absolutely.
That's
I'm capital outlay. Sorry.
Okay, yeah, not out of SDCs.
Sorry.
But yeah.
I jumped in too quick.
Yes.
Capital outlay.
So that's kind of the transition piece here. There still will be expenditures, but I think there's a significant wish list of projects, which is great. Everybody wants parks and roads, those kinds of things. It's just difficult to execute those with, I think, the staff that we have. I think that's probably the main answer to your question.
And I would just add, Councilor Stearns, when you look and you say 18 million looks like a lot, Molalla, Estacada, and Sandy are all dealing with $50 to $60 million wastewater treatment plant problems right now, or projects. So we got to save even more if we need to upgrade our capacity in our systems.
Well, yeah.
As you know.
If the things we're saving up for, that's fine, but I'm just wondering if there's a bottleneck, like you're saying, due to lack of capacity to execute the projects. And, obviously there's going to be balance and all that going on, but.
And our capital improvement plan is next on the docket, Ms. Chair. So, yeah.
Mr. Pendleton had a question.
Same.
Yeah. I'm looking at the Park SDC. We've got a lot of money in Park SDC right now. But when we were talking about park maintenance, we said we don't have enough people right now to do the job we'd like to do maintaining our parks. Are we in kind of a mess here that we can't spend this, we can't do the new parks because we can't maintain them?
Right.
Yes.
We've been there a while.
Is that?
So for many, many years, almost the entire time that I've worked at the city, there were no new parks built because there was staffing issues in the parks, which is why that fund is so much higher. In the last 5 years, we've been able to spend a lot of that with the new Auburn Farms Park, updates to Maple Park and stuff like that. So we finally were able to find places to spend some of those SDC funds. So that's for that particular fund. But kind of getting back to Stearns's real quick, if I can, the 18 million that is currently there, the project lists that come out of the transportation system plan or some of these other wastewater master plans, those total are in the probably closer to hundreds of millions. So, and these are for plans in the long-term 20-year plan. So we do have these funds and they are being spent. Walnut is partially SDC funded. So it's some of these long-range plans of getting that pot up so that we can do these big capital projects.
Okay, thank you. I'm not really opposed to saving up for future projects. I'm just wondering if how much of the money is earmarked for future versus how much it's just stuff we'd like to spend but we can't because of the project staffing constraints.
All right, Mr. Tate.
Yeah, so the interest that we make off of the system development charges that we have in the bank, does that need to stay in SDC?
I don't know the answer to that.
So that's the 450.
That answer is yes, it does.
That's the 450 that's down at the bottom here?
Correct.
Is that interest?
Correct.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments? Yes, Councilor Davis.
Thank you. More of a comment. I think that as we look at these projected projects moving forward, every year, like this year included, we're looking at Maple Street Park improvements that won't get done that were budgeted for. And so when we have those carry over to the next year, those projects, are they going to be budgeted for? In other words, the improvements that we're going to be doing that were budgeted this year for Maple Street Park and or the off-leash dog park and so on and so on. I don't want to lose those. And so that leads me into, I think I know the answer to that, but that leads me into the fact that when we talk about project management, our department heads and staff is overloaded right now. Hence, that's why some of these projects aren't getting done. And the citizens get very frustrated, including the Park and Rec Committee, when things don't get done. Okay? And so, I'm going to be advocating very strongly that we need this project management and a procurement officer as we move forward next year. If we're going to start seeing these projects that are budgeted for, it does no good to budget things and not get them done.
100%.
Yes, Vice Chair Canton-White.
Thank you, Madam Chair. With respect to the projected increases to the SDC fees, this might be more of a Don question, sorry. With respect to the proposed increases, is there any contingency for changes in construction velocity? And what I mean by that is, if we're effectively doubling our SDCs over a 3-year period, do we potentially forecast either a reduction in demand for building or potential concessions, for lack of a better term?
It's a great question as well. I mean, part of the index here that we've been looking at very carefully is where do we lie within the metro area in terms of the overall collective SDCs, including water, which we do not control, which CUB controls. And we've added that in as a reflective piece to looking at where we're at. And it's turning out that we're probably, if there was a halfway mark for the entire metro jurisdictions, we're slightly below that mark. And so I think from that perspective, will it increase prices of homes is another consideration as well. I mean, is that obviously going to be passed on? And that's another challenge. But we've indexed those as well by square footage. So there's a break, actually. There'll be more of this detail at the July 1 meeting, but there'll be a break about there'll be an index of small scale homes and then ranging in different categories that will be indexed there to soften that blow. But I think from a purely metro kind of regional area, we will be comparative to other jurisdictions. And will that slow down growth? It might slow some projects down, I would suppose. But I think overall, I do not expect it would end up having a huge detrimental swing because the other jurisdictions, and many of them are quite a bit higher. Wilsonville's really doing well, and they have one of the highest SDCs in the entire metro area. Hillsborough is in that same arena. And extremely aggressive growth going on in those areas. But they have some of the highest SDCs in the metro area. So I don't see that necessarily as a deterrent, but it is a factor. We know that that's going to be part of the discussion on July 1 for council to go through and sort that out. But I mean, it's part of that balance. And some of these have not been increased for a long time, since 2010 on TSP, Transportation System Roads, since 2010, and also for parks is 2013. So these are our rates that we have in our current plans. I mean, the inflation index alone there's a need to make these changes, or at least some change to bring us back up to par.
But to the budget member's question, the council has decided to soften that blow by phasing it in over the 3 to 5 year period.
Thank you.
Councilor Padden?
Yeah, and something that I will just throw out there is when we were having, for folks on the budget committee that were not part of this conversation, at the council level, we were having conversations about, with these increases to fees, it's going to drive up the cost of a home. Is it going to cut into people's willingness to build affordable housing. And sort of the determination was if an increase in the fees was the determination as to whether people were going to build affordable housing in a city, with Canby as low as it is, we should have affordable housing coming out of our ears, and we don't. So that was one of the considerations that was mulled over quite a bit at the city council level, was by raising these fees is going to kind of sway people from doing affordable housing, and you know, in my opinion and others, there was really a lack of a correlation of that.
And just to reflect that a bit, because I didn't share that, we are literally the second lowest in the entire metro area. Molalla is the only one that has a lower rate. And again, all this has to be compared and indexed and looked at and evaluated. But to reflect Councilor Patton's points, we're starting from being at the very low end of the pack, which theoretically we would have lower housing prices reflected with that analysis. That I don't disagree with what he just said.
Mr. Tate.
A question on that.
Oh, wait, Mr. Pendleton. Mr. Tate had his hand up, and then you.
Randy, when you started, you said we could use this money for three things: reimbursement, improvements, and administration.
Yeah.
I'm assuming if we could use this administration to hire a project manager, we'd see that in the budget. Is that not?
It's on the bubble list, Mr. Tate.
Oh, okay.
That we'll talk about.
To fund it here?
We will work with finance to do the correct allocations, so it could be spread out amongst different capital outlay projects with a little bit of administration. Have to consult with Don on that, but yes.
So at least some of it we can fund here.
I believe the answer is yes, because of the administration overhead costs. A portion at least, not all.
This is more project related. We can't really pay for staff positions, but when there's a project, there's administrative costs for those projects. And that is a cost that we can recover as part of the project, the construction piece. That's not a labor piece for city staff. Yeah. But if that helps, and that's the administration of the actual implementation of the money. You have to be able to create capacity to be able to charge an SDC. Capacity meaning you're building a new park, you're putting a new intersection in, a new traffic signal. It has to be related to increase in capacity, and so those projects would have an administration component with them, and a brand new facility would have an improvement component, and then there's a reimbursement for, let's say you're adding a left turn signal to an existing interchange, that would be a reimbursement. There's some fairly high level math that kind of goes into these calculations, and they're premised, we have a consultant that's involved with this, fairly high level, and they come back with what's called an eligibility factor that we can use. Some of them range from 100% for a brand new intersection to some portional percent because some of that intersection is already built. So it's the increased capacity of that, which is a formula that is part of the SDC process.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Pendleton.
One thing I was wondering, based on Councilor Patton's comment about the housing, is there any way to tie the SDC to the price of the house? In other words, single-family house pays an SDC. If it's a $800,000 house, can the SDC be bigger than for a $400,000 house?
And I don't think that's possible, but part of what we're doing is a subcategory. I'm trying to find where that is here. A subcategory is, I think we have an index between a 600 to 1,000 square foot home, 1,000 to 1,500 square foot home, 1,500 to 2,500 square foot home, and above 2,500 square foot home. So in addition to the phase in, those size square footage will be indexed and reduced. So above 2,500 is the maximum rate. So what Randy showed you is a home that's at the maximum rate. It's above 2,500 square feet in that table that he showed you. There's a lot more detail we could go into on that discussion, but at least it does relate to the square footage. We can't really tie it to the cost, but it's related to the square footage, which right now is not the way it is. You essentially, it's not quite as bad as this, but an ADU and a 4,000 square foot home are almost paying the same fee. That's not proportionate, and we need to change that. That's part of what we're changing. Yeah.
All right, Mrs. Thompson.
Just while we're on the topic, I wanted to say I concur with Jim here that definitely any asset resource that we can put towards accomplishing some of the projects that citizens are expecting to see, and to offload some of the capital that we've accrued for some of these projects. Granted, there were reasons why they didn't get done, but yeah, I'm all for that. And I saw some heads nodding down that way as well on the committee.
All right, any more questions? Yes, Councilwoman.
Just one more statement. I agree with that, but I think we also have to balance that with the fact that we actually have to maintain the things that we build. It doesn't do any good to build a whole bunch of stuff that's just going to fall apart because we don't have anybody to maintain it as well.
And that is it's come up a few times over the course of these two meetings, Mayor, last week. So in maintaining the bubble list, I did not flag like an extra FTE for facilities. We got one FTE in there with Dustin right now. So if that's the pleasure of the Budget Committee, we can talk about that later too, how we're going to tackle deferred maintenance on facilities with one person.
I was thinking more infrastructure for parks and stuff.
Maintenance.
Streets and.
Yeah, well, we have on the bucket list a FTE added to parks for maintenance as a proposal, for example. It's pretty low impact at 80,000, I think, fully loaded. So thank you for the clarification.
All right.
Two different topics.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, next really quick is the CIP, Capital Improvement Plan, pages 36 through 40, which I handed out a little prematurely maybe, but it gives you an idea of the backlog. If you could turn to page 3, the last page. This is just for your viewing pleasure, and thanks to Maya and her staff for printing out on the big sheet because it's just too small to see, so we got the big paper out tonight. Look at the very bottom of this. So this is FY26 budgeted capital projects in Canby, and there's about 30 million loaded in there. So to date, we've done about 7 million of that. So the rest is just, as we talked earlier, money just gets more expensive if you don't get it out the door. And so hopefully, if we can get some bandwidth with project management, we can move to a much higher level of completion as we transfer in that thing we just talked about, those SDCs, over to these projected projects, which are page 1 and 2 in your budget. We can, I would argue, we could move more, and I would like that position to report directly to the city administrator. That's just my 2 cents, where I can hold that person accountable across the board for different projects, and the department heads are freed up to do their day-to-day work. I think that would work in this case. So anyway, I'm a little off topic because for your consideration, the capital improvement plan, pages 36 through 40 are listed. And yes, you're right. We are kind of holding back a little more this year in terms of deploying because I think, it's just my 2 cents, I've only been here 11 months, but it was hard to see $1 million for Maple just sit there and not be able to be spent for a number of different reasons. Nobody's fault. But so in counter to that, we're just going to hold it in the general fund and park it in reserves and then be more thoughtful about the 5-year CIP and maybe come to council with a supplemental budget at some point. It's very common to, when we're ready to greenlight a project and really spend that money, do it. And that's sort of the point of the CIP conversations. And I don't want to speak for Katie and Denise. They've had experience in this too. So that would be my recommendation for CIP.
I would agree also.
You can see we're trying to project out to, the last column is almost, FY31, who knows, right? FY30, who knows? I'm more concerned with 27 and 28, 29, really getting those right so that when Katie journals, she knows exactly how much money to put in there, how much money we're going to spend, and we're going to get it done. So it's my 2 cents on a phenomenal position you're in. Like I said, half this budget almost is in reserves and capital outlay. So we're very optimistic that we're coming here with that kind of amount of reserves for the city of Canby. But I think that also brings with it a lot of responsibility to start spending the money before these projects just get more and more expensive.
Councilor Davis?
I just wanted to thank you for preparing this. This is very telling with the amount that we had budgeted and what we actually spent.
Yeah. Thanks to Denise and Katie.
Great work.
And the department heads. They all fed into it. So thank you, Councilor Davis. Okay.
Are there any other questions or comments on this? No, okay.
Forfeiture. This is a one-pager, but you know what? It is Chief Stroh's very last budget meeting. So, one last time. Congratulations. Thanks for your 30 years of service, Chief.
You're so nice. Thank you. What am I supposed to talk? Forfeiture?
Forfeiture. Tell us what does this fund mean?
It is actually a pretty small fund, right? So it comes from money seized in drug-related cases. There's two parts to it. There's a civil forfeiture and a federal forfeiture. Civil forfeiture laws changed a couple years ago to make it very hard to seize money civilly. So we really don't expect any money coming in anymore from civil forfeiture. Federal forfeiture, since we have somebody participate in the Clackamas County Drug Task Force, they seize money and then it goes to the departments that have helped on that case. And it's very hard to predict how much. It could be nothing or it could be, $20,000 in one case. So we put it in there. We don't budget that much for it. One of the things that in the past, and I kind of recommended to our captains for next budget year, we have bought a vehicle for the detective that's assigned to the task force. So that's something where if we build that fund up a little bit, we could buy a vehicle in the next couple of years. So it's pretty simple fund.
All right. Any questions?
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks.
Go Dodgers. Okay. Next, I'm going to pass the baton to our finance director, Denise LaRue, on pages 147. She is going to speak to our internal service funds. If you want to pivot to page 147 really quickly, you can see it all rolled up there nicely in one page.
Yes, we are looking, the FY27 expenses are about $250,000 more than they were in FY26, which is about 4.5%. If you start over at the first column on the left for facilities, that is allocated per square foot. The total amount that's being allocated for this year, it hasn't changed since last year. The unallocated portion is for the adult center and for undesignated space in this building. So the lobby areas, the stairwells, all of the areas that are not really attached to anyone.
If you're following along, just again, page 147, and there's 4 columns she's speaking to: facilities, tech, fleet, and overhead.
So in facilities, the largest allocations obviously are to police and library based. Like I said, it's based on square footage. So those numbers haven't changed because no one's square footage has changed in the last year. In the tech column, this is really allocated based on the needs of each department and their technology needs. This has increased over last year. It's up to $820,000 from $700,000, but that's because of the additional money that is needed in our IT department to cover additional servers and that equipment that is needing to be replaced. Again, the police department is paying the largest portion of that allocation, but they have a lot of people and they have a lot of devices and a lot of work needs to happen there and to keep all of that very secure. For the fleet department, which is the next column over, this is calculated by looking at the work orders for the previous year. It's actually, we use the April 2025 through March 2026 so that we have a full year of actual work orders, and then we allocate the costs based on that. This also is an increase of about $120,000 over last year, but that is accounting for the increased fuel costs and any petroleum-based products that they are needing. The costs are just escalating. And so transit pays the largest percentage of that, with police, sorry, Chief Trout, being next with a lot of vehicles. And then the fourth column is for admin overhead, which a portion of that, finance and HR, are allocated by FTEs, so the number of employees that are being supported by HR, the number of payroll checks, et cetera, per department that are being run. And then for administration, it's a percentage of operating expenses, which that is the real driver for the most part. Once again, with the police department having the biggest charge for that, streets, and then the wastewater treatment plant, because their expenses are very high, so therefore their allocation is very high for that. That's relatively flat to last year for that particular column. Okay. Any questions?
Cool, okay. Looks good. All right, it is 8:55.
Yeah. 8:55, and we have...
I vote we power through and not come back next week. Katie's nodding.
We have the sewer combined fund.
We have the sewer combined, and then we have the bubble list.
Yeah.
Are we good with staying later? No. Yes, Councilor Waterman.
Yeah, wrong question.
Oh, yes.
All of the allocations for overhead, and because I don't know this, is this the Canby way, or is this an industry standard way? And
I did actually look into that because, cities are a new thing for me, and this is very common.
okay, just want to make sure that we weren't leaving something on the table in how we allocate.
When I was looking at When I was looking at other cities, what I was really looking for was, is there a better or a simpler way, and I ran into the same types of allocation methods that
Perfect.
we're using here.
Thank you for looking into that.
Sure.
Any other questions? Yes, Councilor.
This is about whether we're going to power through tonight or do it next week. One thing,
Need show of hands.
well, one thing I just wanted to comment on would be, it would be probably not good service to the citizens if we tried to rush through these, I guess, bubble expenses. And the other question we have, do we have good enough financial data to convert the bubble lists into actual dollars and cents?
It's emailed to us already.
Was it?
Yeah.
Do we have additional?
We have just three
Tonight?
items that were like on the wish list.
Yes, Councilor Davis.
I don't know if it'd be helpful, but as much prep work as we can have on that bubble list, I think it would be helpful for us to at least say what is important, or to instruct Randy to go back and bring back for next week. If there's some that we're not going to be moving forward, I think we can identify some of those so that they're not wasting their time. But it's not up to us to try to find the money.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it's not up to us to try to find the money for this. It's for Randy and his team to go back and try to project those out for us for next week.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, Mrs. Thompson.
So, Counselor, are you suggesting that perhaps we just jump right to the bubble list and then come back and review the bubble list and the last item on the list, kind of, maybe next time? Or what are you thinking?
Well, I think that
Power through on the bubble list now?
Yeah, if we could power through on maybe some of the items that are important to us on the bubble list, that we would like some, for the city administrator to go back and see if we can afford to do those things. Because otherwise, we're going to be asking them to do that at the next meeting, and we potentially have to come back again.
And so then we have this group of enterprise.
We've got.
Enterprise fund.
So we still have the enterprise fund to go through.
Yeah.
So should we do the enterprise fund and then we'll have a complete bubble list and talk about the bubble list next Thursday? Okay. That sound like a plan?
The enterprise fund
I'm
doesn't
saying
take
that
very
I
long.
think we at least need to give some direction to the city administrator on what items on the bubble list to bring some projections back.
Isn't that what this is?
That's what this is.
Yeah. What, do we want to do
We
the
get
whole
to
thing?
Pick from what we want on here. This is a menu.
Yeah, if we pick what it is, we already have
Yes.
information.
Yeah.
So if we're picking on that anyway, right now, and he's gonna come back, then it makes sense just to do that and maybe come back for the enterprise fund. I mean, if we're coming back anyway.
Right.
Is that what you're thinking?
Yes.
Yeah. So we might as well not go through the whole enterprise fund now and just wait and let.
Fine.
Because I have a feeling this is.
Just,
We just have the enterprise fund.
yeah.
Okay.
It's got 3 units in it.
Yeah, I don't care.
Would we be able to get through the enterprise and finish this in an hour?
I think so.
I would give up an hour and not have to be here for another.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, so should we have a show of hands as to who wants to stay another hour tonight and finish up? And who wants to go home now? Who wants to go home now? Okay.
Everybody
I guess-
behind us.
Sorry. Oh. I didn't look behind. Sorry.
Okay. The enterprise fund, the sewer combined, page 123 through 128. As it was explained to me. Oh, Nate. There you go, Patrick. Come on down. Patrick Mahoney manages your wastewater treatment plant. Okay, so I'm back on script here, page 123 through 128. Essentially, high level, that what you're looking at is what's called the sewer combined fund. And many of you know this already, so forgive me if I'm over-explaining. Some of you may not. Underneath that house, the sewer combined fund, is the wastewater treatment plant, which Patrick runs for labor, M&S, and capital outlay. That's pages 127 and 128, which we'll get to in a minute. Then there's sewer collections, the conveyance of the system, pages 129 through 132. And then there is a third component, which is called stormwater. And that's all the dry wells. For example, I'll say it, Canby has the best soil in Oregon. And so we have low INI in the wastewater treatment plant because the soil takes the water. So kudos to Canby Soil. And give them a shout out to the dirt. Okay, so on page 123, up there you can see in the sewer combined fund, the utility charges that come in at 4.6 and $1 million projected and 4.8. We have not touched the sewer rates in Canby since in 10 years, March of 2016. They've been holding steady at $46.20. And as I explained earlier, there are Canby Utility, the water project that's estimated to be over 150 million. Molalla, Estacada, and Sandy are all three struggling with, or not struggling, they're doing well with their wastewater treatment plant expansions. And that is a $50 to $60 million endeavor. I'm just handing you an example of a typical bill that you've probably seen before as a Canby resident and how the pricing is laid out on there. We are suggesting in this budget to bump the sewer rates since they haven't been touched and put it in a savings in a reserve for future plant expansion. And there is already money in there for future plant expansion, but we want to highlight that if as Councilor Stearns was saying, a little bit at a time will help you be prepared for not a big shock of raising rates to fund capacity building projects down the road. Our plant is in good shape. It can handle a population of 30,000 people, I'm told. Remember, we're at 19.5. So that's 40 to 50 years of capacity based on a growth projection of 1% per year. Currently, Patrick sees about 1.1 million gallons per day on average down at the plant, and peak flow can be 1.7 million. The capacity is 2.8 MGD, so we've got some capacity there. And would you like to say anything else about the meticulous? My nephew toured your plant the other day and said it looked like a golf course. Keeps it really just beautiful compared to he's been touring a bunch of them. So congrats.
Well, thank you. Yeah, we take a lot of pride in the facility there. I've worked at a lot of facilities across the state. I started out in Southern Oregon working as a private wastewater contractor and moved my way up the state to where I'm now. And I'd have to say Canby's easily one of the nicest facilities I've worked at as far as the maintenance that's been done and the facilities and the upkeep of the whole facility in general. It's just been fantastic. The upgrades have been getting done. There's no equipment that's just flaking and falling apart like you see at a lot of facilities. So there's a lot of pride in that facility, and I'm happy to be there and managing it. So kudos to everybody that's been putting money into that fund. I've worked at a lot of different facilities where you're just broke and you're looking for money. The reason the facilities are falling apart is because you have no money. So you've all been doing extremely well to keep money in the sewer fund and keep things as nice as they are, because it really is a gem of a facility. If you tour other facilities, you'll notice ours is definitely one of the nicer ones. So it's nice to be at Canby. There's the potential that Cub wants to send their backwash water on their new water treatment plant to the wastewater treatment plant, and that would push our capacity a lot closer to its limit. And so, like Randy was suggesting, to get a little more money into our fund, if we do have to do a large expansion in the future, they're starting to look at like the $30 to $80 million range for a large expansion or build out in wastewater facilities due to just the technology, everything that's getting involved with it. A lot of stainless steel. Things are just expensive in wastewater. So looking at the future, even though we're looking good, looking at the future is definitely the right thing to do. So thank you, everyone.
And really quickly, and we take questions, or we're moved to collections, which is pages 129 through 132. And this is 2.8 FTE. Forgot to tell you, 6.5 FTE for Patrick's crew. And they're responsible for the O&M over the city's entire sewer collection system. There's about 1.1 million in capital outlay. Anything on collections, Spencer? Jumps out.
It's kind of the normal. I think everyone has at one point in time seen the Vector truck out or the guys out working on something. We're cleaning on a 4 to 5 year rotation all the city sewer mains in town. We have approximately 70, or is it 8? I think we have 80 miles of sewer main with laterals and everything else. Actually, today was not a great day. There were 2 citizens that ended up having sewer backups at the same time. So the crews got split completely up, and luckily they were able to get things going again. But yeah, just kudos to those guys for all the work that they do.
And then lastly is stormwater, page 133 through 137. The dry wells, can you want to explain maybe 30,000 feet how this works?
Yeah.
It's pretty unique.
Canby is very unique that we do have good soil that drains throughout almost the entirety of town, and which is very helpful considering how flat Canby is. If we had to try to convey the water anywhere, we wouldn't get very far unless we were having to pump. So currently, I think we are just over 500 dry wells throughout town. They're called UICs with the state. There's not very many cities in the state that have that many that DEQ will allow. So we've got a very good program working with the state on, for the most part, they just rubber stamp anything that we propose for dry wells around here because we do such a good job of maintaining them.
And that's it. The last piece is just page 138. It's called not allocated. That's where we have a lot of reserves that we're saving up for future plant expansion and where we would park this $2.30 bump in rates if approved in this budget and by council ultimately. We would park it here and reserve for future expansion and save for that day when it comes.
All right, are there any questions? Yes, Councilor Waterman.
With that bump, how long would it take to get to a point where we would be able to afford an expansion?
Afford? What?
Well, like if we say we were putting that away for an expansion,
yeah.
So how long would it take for that fund to build up to be able to realistically do that?
I would say quite some time, and what we would do, in my opinion, my advice would be to bring in a rate specialist to work with the council on that projection. So you'd have to calibrate growth, how much they're treating, the rate structure to pay for this, and then any funds that you could get. They have WIFIA funds at the federal level, low interest loans that a lot of cities are using, grants, TBD, definitely. But hopefully, maybe half, I'm just projecting, could be paid for through grants and other funding, and maybe forgivable loans are also a potential. But you certainly have to pay back any loans that you take out or a bond to any bonding you do with revenue backed rates.
Councilor Padden. Councilor Padden, do you have a question?
I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing people. I don't think people are turning on their microphones and stuff.
Ours is on.
And the sound was modulating a bit. Were you following on me?
Yes.
Yes, you have your hand up?
Okay, yes, I do have my hand up.
Okay.
So I guess the first thing I want to say is, if you plan on putting that bill in, you had up on the screen the bill, the model bill of what people are paying.
Yeah.
I would say if you're going to do your redactions, you should probably redact the address because that was on there as well, and that would make it very easy to figure out whose bill that is, considering the size of the city. So if you're going to put that in to the online portion of it, you probably want to black that out as well. When it comes to the sewer rate, it kind of surprises me that this is not tied to inflation. I was under the impression that several years ago, the city went through the process of really reviewing all of their fees and getting them like tied to an inflationary mechanism. And lo and behold, this one was not. Perhaps we need to go back through and really take a look at all of those fees and identify those that are not tied to an inflationary mechanism. And unless it makes really good sense to not tie it to a mechanism for increase each year, we got to fix that, because again, this should have been going up all along rather than waiting for a big bump now.
Received, message received. Thank you, Counselor.
Any other questions?
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Next is the bucket list, or the bubble list.
Bubble list.
Bucket list. I need a bucket list.
Chair. I don't speak to the bubble list.
This is.
Just
I'm
wanted
sorry.
to point out something about the bucket list.
Okay, so Council President Hensley.
I just wanted to point out that the printed version is not entirely the same as the emailed version.
Okay.
So the last line on page 2 on the printed version, at least the one in my possession, says general fund, 1 additional FTE for parks. There's another line on the emailed version that says restore the library fund to the FY24 contribution, which would be an additional 50,000 add.
That's on here.
Is that on that? Okay, then I must have the one that from.
Yes.
I have the one you gave us last
Sorry,
night.
okay. Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure that that was
There's a
translated to
new
everybody here.
handout. Yeah, thanks for the
I have
clarification.
last night's copy.
Yep.
All right, and Mr. Mayor, did you?
I can wait till after Randy gets gone.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor. So just very high level, 1% equals, so if you put your Monopoly hat on, 1% equals approximately 141,000. We cannot dip below 20% in our general fund. So if we are going to come in at, we have calculators over here, right? So for every 1%, it's 141,000. So if we think we're going to land at, let's say 25%, that's, you got 5% of room there. You go 5 times 141,000 equals $500,000, 600,000.
705,000.
705. Okay, so that's sort of the math that we're working with here. So you can see how it moves. We cannot go below 20%. And nor would we want to.
Okay, so what percent are we currently sitting at?
That was in my opening statement.
We're currently at 21%. We're estimating 23. We're estimating 23, but the proposed budget is at 21%.
Okay.
So
here's the number. Here's what I gave earlier based on conversation we had. We are projecting to land June 30 with 32% in our general fund reserves right now. Okay, so that's 12% over 20%.
So.
But this budget.
What happens to those funds?
They stay in, if we were going to land there, they would, I'll let you answer this question, my financial experts, they stay in reserves. They stay in the general fund.
they stay in the reserves. Where we are proposing that we would be at, given those updated numbers, would be 23% at the end of FY27.
Next year.
So out of that 32% that we're thinking we'll have this year, a portion of that is being used next year.
Got it.
Okay.
So we're not at 32% for next.
So we got like 3% to play with, is what you're saying.
Exactly.
So 141
There
times
we go.
3. We got $423,000, guys.
Okay. Yes,
general.
Mr. Tate.
Didn't we say at least some of these,
Yeah.
some of those funds, like the project manager fund, some of that would come out of money.
That's correct.
That isn't impacted by
The general fund.
the general fund.
Correct.
Need for
Yeah.
revenue. So some of these projects are cheaper than what you've got listed if they're not, if they can be funded someplace other than general.
That's right. So for example, to your point, the project manager that would report directly to the city administrator fully funded at $205,000. I would allocate that out to capital outlay projects to pay for that position. So now, finance training, 3,000, I got that colored in green, like no brainer. Get training for finance, training for court, 3,000. I feel like that's comfortable in my recommendation. Some of these things might take a little longer to study and explore, like the entirely different software program that you have kindly brought up that could be used, like this software called Tyler, and how it interfaces across all the departments. So we might need a little more time. I would hate to rush to do something like that. I don't know how you want to walk through this. This is my first time on your bubble list, but that was those are my initial, and I see Councilor Waterman.
Council President Hensley.
On the subject of that software, Randy,
Yeah.
it's got the initial purchase and conversion, and then a 30,000 annual. Is the first year going to be both of those numbers? Or is that 30 included in the 53 for the first year?
Maya, that's court.
The court software, it says 53,395 initial purchase and conversion, then it says 30,440 annual recurring expense. I'm wondering if the first year's 30,000 is in that 53, or are we talking about 83 for the first year?
I think it is included, but I need to double check.
Okay.
Planning, really exciting that you're interested in helping Dawn with permit tracking software. We need a little more time to study that, but those are the big names there, Bluebeam, Accela, that the state and the county and others partners are using that would be fun to get into if we could afford it.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, question. The procurement administrator and the project manager, can those positions be combined? Can they be done by the same person?
That's a stretch. This procurement administrator, in my opinion, I don't want to get out of my swim lane, Mr. Mayor, is a very niche, like full-time, based on the struggles I'm seeing. And the person that's doing it is doing very well, by the way, for the record, but only part-time. It's a full-time gig. Like, if we were going to do it right, we need that kind of bandwidth. It's RFPs, it's legal.
Contracts.
Yeah, contracts. It's microscope details, and it's a gap here, definitely.
You're talking about the procurement?
Yeah, procurement. And it takes away from everybody sitting behind you, their time, because they're all trying to do it while they're doing their full-time jobs.
Mrs. Thompson.
Thank you. So on page 42, which is the general fund of our budget, where we look down at the general fund where the that reserve is sitting, the 20 million, excuse me, on 6.5. Also embedded there as a proposal, Randy, we've got some kind of holding places for property acquisition, fleet replacement, parks. So those things are going into that reserve to be held there.
Yeah.
So just so everybody's, so I'm clear too. So if you decide to extract any one or all of those at any particular time, that changes the scope of the agreed upon amount. By the, right? So it just seems to me that there needs to be kind of an understanding that could very easily happen and change the dynamics of what the council has kind of set out. And if that's okay, just like conversely, if, we have a huge emergency and need to spend all that money, those things are going to go away. But it's embedded in there, and it has become that new line item. So I just wanted to point that out.
Without that included in there?
So I'm just saying, if that's a part of your reserve, it's already being parceled out in addition to what we're discussing tonight.
Yeah, it's been a big conversation for the council is land acquisition.
Correct.
For parks or economic development or whatever.
So you're okay by reducing the reserve? That's what I'm asking.
That's what I mean. It's a good question.
Because that's kind of what we're looking at here is then taking additional for the bubble, which I support, doing something with that. But that's another item that's going to come off as a commitment there. I don't know.
Councilor Waterman?
I just wasn't sure about that.
I'd like to
I believe
address
in the reserve, the council has to approve any spending coming out of that reserve. Is that correct? Isn't that the?
I don't know.
You can't spend anything out of the reserve, that reserve, without council approval.
That is correct.
Okay.
So this budget was printed 2 or 3 weeks ago, or at least 2 weeks ago. on a Friday or Thursday. And so what we are suggesting is that those numbers are going to come in higher than what you're seeing.
Anyway,
Yeah.
23.
So that's why we're even having this discussion.
Got it.
And I would say that any extra dollars that we get are going to go in that one line that on that, what page are you on again? Ms.
42.
Thompson? Page 42. They're going to, Katie will journal those in the reserve, the one reserve that says, what's it say?
Unrestricted.
Unrestricted.
The very bottom.
Very bottom one.
The one.
So that's the one that's going to grow. And then the council will ask the
1.9.
council if they want to.
And that was the point I was trying to make, is it wouldn't happen with, I mean, it can't happen without the council's knowledge or approval. So we would have to be involved and understand.
Yeah.
But I understand, like, yeah, that if you take from one, it's going to take from the other.
Good point.
It just changes the whole amount. All right, Mr. Mayor.
So to help maybe expedite this process so we can stick to the hour extension, I would like the budget committee to, at least looking at the green items, to consider approving the finance training, the court training, and the $50,000 contribution back to the library as those being immediate things to fund from this bubble list.
And going, I was the.
And then
Yeah,
Council.
I didn't want to.
Hensley, yes.
Yeah, I was
Go ahead.
that was most of my list. I was going by
the easy stuff.
Well, I was going by the green as being Randy's recommendation, so I would like to propose that we do those things that you just said, the training and the library, but also the parks FTE. And then if we can fully fund the project manager out of CIP and not the general fund, I'd be interested in that.
Councilor Davis.
I agree with what the mayor and said, as well as in the green, but I would hope that if we can suggest these and you can bring numbers back to us on what those impacts are.
Yeah.
But I would support the procurement administrator, the project manager, as well as the additional FTE and for parks as bringing back how you could make that work. And that may even include using existing staff for maybe some of those positions. That's totally up to you on how to make that work.
Absolutely. Good suggestion.
Councilor Stearns.
I think we should seriously consider, I agree with the training. Obviously, I've never seen training go to waste as far as making things better, but I would also ask, we need to seriously consider the software for the court. One of the advantages of a good software system is it eliminates the need for personnel, and the cost probably for personnel will go up much quicker than the cost for software. And if we can get software to do things better and quicker, it could free up time for the personnel. And I think that would, assuming the software works and it's useful, which is something you guys have to decide. Yeah. I think adding the technology would be an investment that would create a good return.
We can look at that. And Maya confirmed it's 53,000 in the first year and then 30,000 for years after that. So it's not 83. Councilor Hensley.
Councilor Padden, you had a question? Councilor Padden?
Yeah, so I've been listening to what people are saying here, and I've been doing some math. I don't know who else is doing the math. But what I understood of the numbers is that with where we would land, we have about $423,000 to play with to try and fill in some gaps from the bubble list. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Roughly.
So if that's the case, based on what I've been hearing from people, if you funded the FTE in the parks, you did 2 trainings, the mapping software for planning, fund the project manager in full. That is not figuring that some of that might come from SDCs, which some of that might be able to come from there, so that would actually lessen that $205,000. The $50,000 to the library and the course software, you would be able to do all those things and still have $3,605 left over of that $423,000.
I did some rounding, so I came up with 410, so I did rounding. But wait, yeah, I'm doing the math too, and that's if we want to spend that much, we could fit all those things in and not roughly 400K.
I had 420.
Maybe I haven't. Maybe I left an item out then. I might have left an item out.
So I don't know what other people's thoughts are, but I would like to move forward with that slate.
This one's 190.
Bubble items.
This is out of here.
For them to dig into, for city staff to dig into further about funding out of this gap between what we needed reserves and what we spent for the previous year for the next meeting.
Councilor Davis.
I agree with you, Jason, but I would also like to see the procurement officer put in there as well and let them come back to us with recommendations on how to make that work. I'm not the finance, I'm not doing the addition here. I'm going to let them do their work and come back with recommendations for us. But I would like to see the procurement officer included in that as well. And they can tell us how to make that work. And that may include having existing staff assigned to those positions.
Council President Hensley.
And
Thank you, Madam Chair.
One other thing that I would like to ask. It's not on the bubble list, but one of the things that we hear quite often is that the administrative side of the city is fairly staffed up, but the boots on the ground sometimes feel like they're not. And I know we have some FTEs that are budgeted for that are going to be backfilled. This new parks person would be in addition to that, from what I understand. Would it make sense to, if finance does all these numbers and we find ourselves with the ability to either bring on another public works person or another parks person, I would like to have that be considered as well. Or even if it's someone who is split 50-50 between public works and parks. I think that we've done that in the past.
Yeah.
I don't know if it worked well or not, but if we're going to put some money into getting some of these projects that are on the list done by doing this project manager, then it might be good to start to move the needle on getting the staffing ramped up so that once those projects are done, we have people to then maintain them.
Yep.
Okay. Now, Council President Hensley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I found where my number and Councilor Patton's number came in different is because I heard him in differently. I thought he was talking about the procurement administrator when he said project manager, didn't you?
I said project manager.
Okay.
Not the procurement person.
Okay, well, if we're able to fund the project manager out of the capital outlay, then we could do the procurement, and that's where I came up with 410.
Okay.
And he came up with 420, so the difference in those positions was 10,000.
We can work those. We can work that.
Let's let finance do their job.
Yeah.
Mrs. Thompson.
Yeah, I concur with Jim. And I agree with the proposals as they are. There's some things that seem really important, especially for some of us who are trying to see to it that maintenance is taking place. You know, in addition to getting these capital projects out, I think we're kind of, most of us in agreement with that. Whether it comes from capital or not, let them do their magic and come back to us and we can put our heads together again and see.
100%.
So, thanks.
Thank you. We can do that.
Councilor Stearns.
just before we vote for new personnel, I think we need at least, I know we can't all see through the crystal ball, but can we foresee that we're not going to have to let them go at the next budget session? At least have some sort of assurance, because I would hate to say, oh, here's extra money this year, and next year, oops, we don't have it. And then that would cause, I think, more.
We'll take a look at that.
Yeah.
How does this affect the ending fund balance for 27, basically?
Okay, Mr. Mayor, did you have another question?
Just to piggyback, that was my question or comment. The Councilor Starnes asked was just, we're talking people positions, and again, that's overhead, that's a big chunk versus looking at projects, and we were just talking about how we haven't been able to do projects because we don't have the people to maintain the projects that we do. Aren't we adding, as we're looking at adding positions, are we adding them in the right areas? So that's, and again, next year, my crystal ball is as cloudy as yours, and I can't know for sure. Things will be better, going to be different. Then are we having a different conversation next year? Yeah, I think that needs to be mindful. We need to be mindful of that as well.
I just don't want to go and hire somebody knowing we're going to let them go the next year, or having a pretty good idea that we might.
Okay.
Councilor Davis.
It sounds like we're wrapping up, and I just wanted to make a comment that I really appreciated this process, and I appreciated all the hard work by the department heads and the city administrator and the finance. This was 100% better than the last process.
Amen.
Thank you. Appreciate it very much.
Is 150% a thing?
Thank you. Thank you all for your input. Thanks to the department head team for, look at the smile, you guys.
Good job. Are we meeting next week then to finalize?
We have to, because no
all
one's
this?
made a motion to approve the budget, so yeah, we can't do that. So.
It might not take so long next week.
Okay. All right. Then I guess we need a motion to recess till next week.
Second.
All right. We have, all in favor? Aye. Aye.
We have to come back to vote.
Anyone
on the final,
opposed? All right.
just have to do the vote on the budget.
We will.
To verify.